So, hi everybody, Renegade 68 here. Oh, I'm getting tiddly with the finale of Danganronpa 3, the anime. Let's watch slash react slash whatever is what we're doing. If you want to watch the video, go down into the description. There's a link, goes to the Google Drive where you'll get my reaction to Hope Arc and like my final thoughts and stuff, my initial final thoughts, and then you can come back and watch this because you probably noticed this isn't a 30-second video. This is, I don't know, I'm recording it. I don't know how long it's going to be yet. An hour, 2 hours? I fucking don't know. Yeah, so this is my extended final thoughts, which I am recording on August 8th. I believe this is going up on the 9th, but maybe there'll be a schedule slip and it'll wind up on the 10th. Or the 20th, I don't know, hopefully not, let's hope that doesn't happen. So, these are my final thoughts. So, I'm gonna assume if you're still watching this, you have, went and watched my Hope Arc reaction and you've come back. If you haven't, you should go do that, because there's a process. You gotta pause the video, guys. Did you do it? 5, 4, 3, 2, what? Don't go down when it comes back. What the fuck? Okay, I'm sorry. Just kidding. So yes, I'm assuming you've done that by now. Also support the official release. I guess I should have already said that, and I didn't. Too late. So I'm gonna be doing this a bit different from my previous final thoughts. I will be comparing to the English to the Japanese. I have a lot more to say about it than I was expecting to. But I'm gonna leave that for like the second half. I don't know how long that half is gonna be, how long this half is gonna be. That half might be 3/4 of the video. I don't know. I actually made a list. I made a list of things I wanted to talk about. I usually don't do that. I usually just improv. Like, I try to think of things I want to say, but for this, it was kind of important to make a list, because one of the reasons I knew almost right away after I finished that Hope Arc reaction that I was going to be making some kind of final thoughts thing was because there was a point that I wanted to bring up that I did not bring up in my initial final thoughts, and then I was like, shit, I was going to bring that up and I didn't. Fuck! Okay, so that's when I knew I was definitely going to be doing this, so I decided, fuck it, let's not have that happen again. Let's write down bullet points. So, let's start from the top, shall we? And this is the one that this first one is the one that I was thinking about way back then and forgot to say like an idiot. Mention Monica and the Monokuma kids. Okay, what do I mean by that? Well, I just took off my shirt and getting comfortable. What? So, as you know, I mean, the thing with Monica is stupid, but what's more important is, do you remember the end of Ultra Spirit Girls? If you don't, the link in the description, I have a Let's Play. You should go watch it, unless you've already watched it. You've probably already watched it. Maybe you forgot. Go watch all of it again right now, and then come back. Just kid. So yeah, they had the big thing with the controller, and whether or not to break it. And if you break it, all of the Monokuma kids die. And if you don't break it, they don't die. But then they're still under Monica's control. I remember really liking this. This was a really good moral dilemma, because no matter what, there was really no winning, but killing the kids was definitely losing. Now, the way that that was also presented as an equalish choice is that that meant that if you just break the controller, not only does it destroy the Monokuma kids, it kills all the Monokumas. Whereas not breaking the controller doesn't kill the Monokumas. So that there actually is some pros and cons to each option there. It's not just one choice is obviously right. I mean, one choice is obviously right. Don't kill all those fucking kids. But there's merit to the other one as well. Anyways, the choice, you make the choice, ultimately the good ending is you don't kill the kids, so Monica gets away, still all the kids are under her control as far as we know, and has all those Monokuma robots. Now what? Does Monokuma still have them? I mean, we didn't see any I don't think we saw any Monokuma kids in this anime. We saw Monokumas still working for Monica, because, you know, they never destroyed the controller and she still had those. We didn't see any kids, though. I thought that would be a big deal going into this, was finding some way to actually save those kids. So what, is the implication that Monica just let them go? Like, she's a good person now? Like, oh yeah, she let all, you know, oh, she let Nagisa and stuff survive, and she also let the Monokuma kids survive. We don't fucking know, anime doesn't fucking tell us. Yeah, that's a big thing for me, because that was such a huge, I mean, the Haiji thing, of course, Haiji not showing up at all when he ended up, and that Ultra Spare Girls on, like, a huge mental breakdown, basically, never showing up was really stupid, but not coming back to the Monokuma kids either. I don't know, they really could have addressed more of Ultra Spare Girls in general. The show in general could have used a longer length, of course, but, That's just something I felt like I had to talk about first. So, point 2, I just noticed that my timer's already at 5 minutes. Let's stop wasting fucking time. Mention Kyoko faking her death being foreshadowed and how that's a bad thing. Right, okay, so, in episode 9 of... No, actually, this is episode 10, right? I don't remember exactly which this happened in, but at the end of 9 or at the beginning of 10 of Future, Kyoko dies, quote unquote, and there's actually a freeze frame moment of the bottle of the cure for Kyoko rolling away from her body, and so basically the creators knew at this point Kyoko wasn't actually going to be dead. This makes it worse in one way, better in another way, but a lesser way. The reason this is worse is because if they had actually intended to kill Kyoko, I think they did a sloppy job of it, but hey, they had balls. They killed Kyoko, and they did a really epic confrontation between Makoto and Munakata, and it was great. But then there was like fan outcry or something, because they killed Kyoko, how dare they, so they went back on their decision and brought her back to life for the ending. If they had done that, I think that would have been better than no, they had planned Kyoko coming back to life all along, because knowing that they planned on her not being dead really hurts the face-off that happens between Makoto and Munakata, because there's this big thing about how, oh, Munakata lost Chisei, and oh, Makoto lost Kyoko, and when it all along turns out that Makoto doesn't lose Kyoko, that really hurts Makoto's stake in this. Obviously, this show just doesn't have balls in general. It brings back all the Danganronpa 2 cast, which we'll talk about in a bit, and it also doesn't kill off Kyoko or Asahina or anyone from a pre-existing Danganronpa series, and it magically says all the Danganronpa kids from Ultra Spare Girls are alive. Yay! Of course, all the new characters, basically except for 2, die. Seriously, they start the game with 15 people. 3 of them are from, Danganronpa 1. The other 12... Mia, not really, because she was already dead, sort of. So let's be nice and say 11 of them were new, and 4 of them weren't. By the end of it, all 4 of the recurring characters are still alive, and only 2 of those 11 new characters are still alive. Isn't that kind of stupid? I think that's really stupid. Anyways, so what's next on my list? Mentioning the returning voice actors. Right, okay, this is something I never mentioned in my initial reaction, because I never noticed. I'm not too familiar with the Danganronpa 1 voice cast, honestly. I know a few of them, but, not terribly well. So, one of them I didn't notice was Yasuhiro. Yasuhiro from Danganronpa 1, in the dub, got a role in the dub of the Danganronpa 3 anime. Not playing Yasuhiro, because he was... The guy playing Yasuhiro in the Danganronpa 3 anime is the same person who played him in the Danganronpa 1 anime, which is different than who played him in the Danganronpa 1 game. It'd be nice if they were just all the same, I think, but they didn't do it the same, so hey, whatever. So he ended up instead playing Hat Guy, Kizakura. And I think he did a great job. I think he did better as Hat Guy than I remember him doing as Yasuhiro. I remember thinking Yasuhiro was pretty lame when I first heard his dub, because, remember guys, I didn't start with the dub. I started in Japanese with English subtitles in Danganronpa 1 anime. And I remember when I first got to English Yasuhiro, I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. But I think he does a better job as Kisakura. I don't know if that's direction, or if he's just improved as an actor, or a combination of both. But whatever the case, I think he does a good job. The other one is the actor for Toko / Junko and Genocider / Junko. The actor for Genocider, specifically, is playing Gecko Gahara. No, sorry, that's wrong. Gecko Gahara is the girl who's dead off screen. What's her name? Psycho, Kimura, that's right. Is playing Kimura. We might as well say she's playing Gecko Gahara too, because Gecko Gahara never speaks. Sure, Genocider's voice actor played Gecko Gahara, and what a good performance it was. So believable. But yeah, she did really good as Psycho. Honestly, until I looked it up, I didn't realize. As soon as I found out that Kizakura was played by Yasuhiro's voice actor from the games, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I can hear that, sure. But when I looked it up about Kimura, I'm like, what? Because she's one of my favorite voice actors more recently. Like the person who plays, Genocider, who also plays Chie from Persona, also plays Quark from Zero Escape. I really love her voices and her roles. I like the sound of her voice. I like her characters generally. I did not notice. She did a really good job differentiating herself from her normal voice. Once I heard it, knowing it was her, I knew, But I think without looking it up, I don't think I ever would have noticed that. So props to her for making that different than her other voices, because I always noticed with her other voices, like Genocider, G.A. Quark, I could always tell, like, oh yeah, that's her. Also, as a little aside, the person who normally plays Toko plays Psycho in her flashback. So that's kind of neat, because they're keeping the whole, they both play Junko, they both play Toko, they both play Psycho. So I like that. It's really nice. What else do we have here? Mention that... Nope, that's later. Compare with Japanese VAs. Nope, I'm doing that later. Mention DR2 cast not getting... Oh, okay. Mention Danganronpa 2 cast not getting help to save Chisa. Right, so do you guys remember at the end, what was it? So Chisa gets kidnapped, right? Because Nanami and Nagito went down and confronted Junko under the statue. And then Chisa came in and saved them, and then she got captured. And so Chiaki and Nagito got back to their class, and it's like, we have to go save them. Well, as I was editing through the series, it dawned on me. They got back to their school, right? They were in their school? Weren't there other students, other staff there? They could have been like, hey, our teacher got abducted by this villain person. Do you want to help us save our teacher? Why did they not do that? Why did they not even bring it up? I guess, what's the trope called? It beat the freezer test? It beat the fridge test? Like, I didn't think about it till after the fact, so it succeeded? I don't know. Basically, what that means is that even if it's a plot hole, if you don't catch it while you're watching it, it succeeded and got away with it, so it doesn't matter if you realize after the fact. I don't know. I think that's the trope. In this case, I don't think that really applies, because I think I was just off my game. I think normally I would have noticed that. But yeah, I guess it's because of the intensity of the moment, you're not really thinking about it, so maybe no, it does succeed the fridge challenge, whatever you call that trope. Future me, edit in what you call that trope, unless you're feeling lazy. Is your choice. What was I saying? Right, yeah, they could have gotten help. That could have solved a lot of their problems. Then Danganronpa 2 cast wouldn't have been hypnotized, Chiaki wouldn't have fucking died. And I mean, Chisa probably would have been fucked, but hey, they could have, like, why did they not try to get help? I think there's really no good reason. It's just they really hoped you didn't notice, and I didn't notice. I'll give them that. I didn't notice, and I have yet to get a comment on my video from anyone saying, hey! So I guess nobody else noticed either. So I guess they did a good job at passing the freezer challenge. Anyways, next, mention Fic, where Chisa is the mastermind and hypnotized Munakata is the attacker. Oh god, I have bad writing in some of these. Okay, this is talking about my fic, not any other fanfic. I do this sometimes when I really like something, and then it turns out away, and I'm like, no, you fucked up, you could have been so cool. Well, this is one of those cases. I do think it would have been better if Chisa was just the mastermind. And the way I envisioned the attacker being... Now, I know this goes against Mitarai and the anime and him being the final villain. And I do like him being the final villain, so this doesn't really work in that respect. But it's something I thought of. I thought I'd bring it up. If, like, Chisa had secretly hypnotized Munakata, just that while, she could control him while he's sleeping and wake him up, and he'd be like a bad guy, and he, while he's hypnotized, would be killing people, and then eventually he'd have the revelation where he's like, I'm the attacker! Ah! And that would also work with Tengen's message being either Chisa's the mastermind or you're the attacker, and that would drive Munakata crazy. So either way, now as for why Chisa dies at the start, and also the reason Chisa dies at the start but can still control Munakata is because of his bangle. Like, secretly, because Munakata's forbidden action is not opening doors, he's never gonna willfully do that, you'd expect. I think Chisa could predict. So maybe instead of that, inside his bangle is like a certain, melody or rhythm that Chisa has over the years programmed into him to brainwash him. Not just one thing he listens to once that controls him forever, because but that's something I thought of. Again, this goes against Mitarai's anime thing. They could still use, I guess, the anime being a despair video could still be a thing, but the suicide video wouldn't have to be a thing, and I might prefer that, because as far as we know, Mitarai didn't even work on the suicide video. Watching that over again, Mitarai only worked on the despair video. Junko came up with the suicide video all on her own, from what I can tell. So, hey, extra levels of bullshit to her, I guess. Anyways, moving on. So yeah, that's just probably how I would have roughly done it. If I had to get a little more in depth, I probably would have had Chisa is the mastermind. She wasn't going to kill herself. She was going to kill Tengen. Tengen was going to be the first victim. Because Tengen could have actually been a cool old guy instead of... Let's not talk about it. Actually, we might talk about it later on. I might have mentioned something. Anyways, Chisa could have been the bad guy, would have killed Tengen as the first victim, or would have attempted to, but would have been stopped because in my head, like, it would have been something like, one of the people who ended up in the game wasn't supposed to be, but instead of Mitra, it was somebody who was not very susceptible to sleeping gas. And the reason I thought of that, you know, if you've seen Zero Escape, there was Alice, and, you know, she's not very susceptible to sleeping gas, and that made me think, wait a second, you know, they could use that, and maybe he or she, whoever this person is, would wake up partway in, like, Hat Guy, give him a purpose in the plot, I don't know. Or they could do something cool with Hat Guy, like with what I said, you know, to make better use of his character, either, you know, try to kill Makoto, or just something cooler. Or this, I don't know. And he wakes up partway through, and he sees what Chisa's doing, and just fucking kills Chisa, and saves Tengen, maybe because he knows Tengen's on his side, he slips like a note in Tengen's pocket, and that's how Tengen knows the truth, that he tells Munakata when Munakata kills him. But the reason he doesn't end the game immediately, and there'll be this terrible thing later on where it's like, I could have just ended it! Munakata hypnotized was the attacker all along! But he thought there was an actual other attacker, there was an actual person, there would have been some reason to really heavily suspect this. I don't know what it is, but that would have been a thing. And then, you know, as things go on, maybe even Hat Guy, or whoever this is, and Munakata could have had a slight showdown, like, just as they were figuring out who the attacker is. Like, you're the attacker! No, you are! Because he's so unsusceptible to sleeping, he would have set up the rest of the game so he could make it so he doesn't fall asleep, so he could track down the attacker like Juzo tries to do towards the end of Future Arc. And so Munakata might see him still being awake, and then he might see Munakata, and then they go, blah! And then someone's like, no, the attacker is Pooh! Okay, so that's more or less what my fix pick is. I hope that made some kind of audible sense. Oh my gosh, I didn't bring any water. So, what's next on the list? Mention the survivor count. Okay, sure. I never brought this up, did I? I mean, I did end up eventually watching the opening and watching the survivor count. It wasn't until afterwards that I'm like, fuck that survivor count, man. It's really stupid. Because, first of all, it's just plain wrong from the start, because it counts Yasuhiro from the start, I guess, but that never goes anywhere, so that's dumb. And it gets really confusing when Gekko Hagahara is revealed to be a robot. Like, is she, at what point does she stop being a person? When the robot's killed, I guess she stops being a person. And then there's also, at the end of episode 5, we see Tengen dying, and we see Kimura dying. But at the start of episode 6, the survivor count is 3 less. And so we're like, wait, what the fuck? Why is it 3 less? And so when we see Izayoi, that's why it's 3 less apparently. Although if we hadn't seen that survivor count, and that was just a surprise, then we might have thought, oh, maybe he's not really dead, or maybe it's a fake. But no, because we saw the survivor count, we just automatically assume he's dead, and he is dead. I mean, speaking of that, I mean, I know I talked about this already, but the whole Kyoko thing would have been better, I think, if we, the viewer... I talked about this in a comment, I think. If we, the viewer, were led to believe that Izayoi was the attacker's next victim instead of Kimura, and then Kyoko correctly figures out that Kimura was the next victim, that would have made that whole detective bit a lot better as being a detective bit. If they had not, you know... If they had left the Kizakura thing out of that, and, you know, done something more important with his character, maybe in the overall narrative, and they just focused on the detective mystery and not shoved Kizakura's death in the middle of that, I think they would have had time to, you know, do a proper, you know, oh, hey, we're doing a Danganronpa case thing. But hey, that's something they could have done. Oh yeah, also with the survivor count later on, and this is the big problem with it, is that when Juzo, Kyoko, and Gekko Gahara Robot all die in one episode, in the next episode the survivor count is only 2 lower. Does this mean Gekko Gahara, the robot, it doesn't count as dying? Or does this mean either Juzo or Kyoko didn't? No, sorry, not even just them. Also, Ruka died in that same episode, that's right. So it could have been her who was also actually alive. Now, in one sense, this could be interesting if Kyoko hadn't died. The problem is Kyoko died. Because of that, I automatically believed, was like, oh, Kyoko's still alive then. And I believed that for a long time, and hey, it turns out it was right, so yeah, fuck you, anime. But turns out they always planned for it to be right. That's a bigger fuck you because of the survivor count. Because they always planned for it to be right, which means their survivor count was lying. It was flat out lying. it said, oh, there's 3 less survivors because, Juzo was still alive. But in actuality, Kyoko was still alive, so it should have only been 2 less survivors. So, what is even the point of this stupid survivor count? And that's the big problem, is that I was expecting the Kyoko to be alive, so when it was revealed Juzo was alive, I was like, fuck! You're not Kyoko! Kyoko's supposed to be alive! Fuck you, man! He kind of redeemed himself in the end there, in my opinion, but still, he wasn't Kyoko. And so I feel I would have been more excited and enjoyed the scene more, I would have enjoyed a lot of it more, if specifically this part, if that survivor count wasn't there. That way, when Juzo shows up alive, I'm like, oh, holy shit! Cool! Instead of, oh, this means Kyoko's actually dead? Fuck you! So, yeah, that was, I don't like that survivor count thing. Anyways, point out how Izuru is kind of like Darth Vader. Right, okay, yeah, sure. Star Wars original trilogy spoilers? Anyways, Izuru, Kamakura, so, like, the whole thing is he was Hajime, and now Hajime is Anakin Skywalker, right? And then, Hajime... the order is slightly off, but, Hajime turns into Izuru, Anakin turns into Darth Vader, and then, Izuru gets tempted by Junko's wiles and decides to go to the despair side, even though he was supposed to be ultimate hope. He was supposed to bring hope to the far... But instead, he ended up corrupting the world instead of saving it. It was already not bad. Just like in, episode 1, 2, 3. Sure, the world wasn't great, of Star Wars, but it wasn't that bad. And then it came pretty fucking bad after Darth Vader, in that era. Whereas Izuru helped the world get pretty fucking bad, but then sort of saved it at the end, just like Darth Vader did at the end of, the original trilogy. So I noticed that, and like, oh, it's kind of like a Star Wars thing. I don't know if that's intentional. Maybe it is. Sort of. All that black hair kind of makes him look sort of Darth Vader-ish, so... I don't know, I just thought of that, and, that's a fun little story arc thingamajigger. Anyways, Darth Izuru Vader. Why didn't Kyoko bring up the monitors before her fake death? This could have prevented Juzo/Ando's deaths. Yeah, it's all right there, what I just said. Why didn't Kyoko bring up the monitors? Because it seems like she was pretty convinced that that's what it was. It's one thing to keep quiet because you don't know any way to survive, and then you just let the time limit run out, and then, they hope that you use your notes to somehow go to success. But you could just tell them. You could just tell them before the time limit runs out what's going on. And then maybe, here's a crazy idea, now none of them had been in the room, I don't think, but if, let's say, one of them had been in the room, like Juzo, who had actually been in there and knew that there was a way to just turn the power off, and Kyoko had said that could have just saved everything. And they could have just stopped it right there and then. Granted, none of them had been in that room, but even still, and then Kyoko ends up living, so, like, double fuck her in a way. Because she ends up living, but Juzo dies and Ando dies because of that shit. They could have lived, especially Ando. Juzo was in a pretty shitty position, but he still might have lived with emergency aid if they had ended the game immediately. And they could have ended it a lot sooner. And Kyoko found out the thing about the monitors, but because she never went in the fucking room, because only Juzo went in that room, she never didn't know you could just turn the power off. But here's the thing, even if you don't know you can turn the power off, Makoto even brought up the idea, let's just break the monitors. Or how about let's go in a room where there are no monitors? How about that, fucking Kyoko? How about you tell that to Munakata and all? I know Munakata's a little crazy, but still, tell that to the rest of them. Hey, everybody, let's not kill each other. Let's all go in a room that there's no monitors. Were there any monitors in the room where Kyoko and the rest slept in the 4th time limit? I don't think so, but... even still, they could have just went out and been like, hey guys, let's all just go in a room with no monitors. And then if nobody dies, hey Munakata, if nobody dies, you stop killing people. But if somebody dies, just fucking kill me. Of course, passing the 4th time limit, that still would have killed Kyoko, but Kyoko had her way out card anyways, so she could have saved Ando, and she could have saved Juzo, but she said, no, fuck you! Maybe she couldn't have saved Juzo. Juzo was actually in an awkward position regardless. Depends on the timing of when things happened, but how long ago did she make that that thought that, oh, it's the monitors? Because how many victims did she need? Did she figure it out with Gozu? She must have figured it out with Kimura, if not with Gozu. That was her final victim that she examined. You'd think if she at least had a theory at some point, she would have brought it up? She never brought up the theory. I know you don't want to cloud your judgment until you're, absolutely sure or whatever, but if it could potentially save lives by guessing... try your fucking guess, woman. Turns out it was right. A lot of people could have been saved if you had just brought up your guess and been like, hey guys, Maybe let's just all not stand in a room with a monitor. Now, granted, Tengen should have still ended up dead at some point because he's a fucking fucker as far as I can tell. But everybody else, you know, I mean, Ando was kind of a bitch, and, you know, Juzo's not a nice guy, and but, you know what? Character development heals wounds. Munakata was kind of a douche, but he fixed himself. Juzo fixed himself, sorta. And Ruka potentially could have, but anyways. So yeah. Kyoko could have fucking saved everyone. Instead, she only fucking saved herself with the stupid bullshit attitude, which apparently she planned all along. Which makes her smart, but it makes the creators dumb? Anyways. Where was Juzo during the 4th time limit? He ran into Makoto during the 5th, but not Ando during the 4th? Yeah, what I just said. So Munakata went and stabbed his bitch ass. But, he probably would have bled out unless he was able to cover up his wound properly before the 4th time limit happened, which means he probably cut off his hand before the 4th time limit happened, so he probably wouldn't have been able to give himself aid. Now, it's possible he just didn't find Ruka, like she blocked herself off, I suppose, but still, the fact that he definitely had to have been up and at him during the 4th time limit, and we never even got a nod to like, oh, I tried to find him during the 4th time limit and I failed or something. I mean, like, he would have had all that time to be up and at him. I don't know how long a time limit lasts. I don't remember if they clarified that. But, he never ran into Ruka. I guess Ruka sealed herself off, but then the monitor fucked her. Because we never saw... They never found Ruka. Yeah, they never found... Did they even know she was dead? Maybe they didn't care. I know she's a bitch, but you think Makoto would care. Yeah, they never found her. They never knew she was dead. Ruka was killed by the monitor, but that's the thing. The killing game was not being broadcast. Nobody saw that. Nobody knew Ruka was dead, guys. I'm just now realizing this. I didn't write this down. I'm just thinking about it now. Nobody knew Ruka was dead. Now, obviously, when the survivor team comes in, the hope is that they go and, you know, the scout team, they go and find Ruka, but unfortunately they find her dead. It's not like we get a little glimpse of that in the Happy Hope arc ending, but in reality, that should be what happened. The people going in and saying, oh yeah, sorry, Ruka's dead, we found her dead, sorry. We know you guys didn't know that, so that's just another dead person, we're sorry, we did. But yeah, like, yeah, nobody knew she was dead. They just, you know what, they forgot it. I mean... I know it kind of makes their confrontation a little worse in that Makoto and Munakata are having that big epic confrontation, and for all they knew, Ruka was off somewhere doing some secret plan, but instead she was just dead the whole time. And yeah, also frickin' Makoto's plan of wait a second, maybe Makoto and everybody surmised that Ruka was the one killed in the 4th time limit. But not necessarily, because if nobody was in a room with a monitor, including Makoto's team, Munakata, and Ruka, if none of them were in a room with a monitor when the time limit happened, what would have happened? I don't think anything would have happened. I think none of them... Kyoko still would have died, but... so as far as Makoto knows, Ruka could still be alive. And yet, he's doing this whole thing of, let's go in front of the monitor again, I'll test this with myself. What if it didn't get him? What if during that time limit Ruka was caught and Ruka was killed in that time limit? Then what would they think? Oh, this is all dawning on me right now. It's like, not only was Ruka killed off kind of anticlimactically, but it's like doubly so because nobody even knew, and yet nobody seemed to remember she existed. It's like even though they never found her corpse, they didn't bring her up again. So that's just another thing. You know, in a way you could argue that's kind of tragic irony in that Ruka, you know, she didn't want to get too close to anyone. That's kind of why she killed Izayoi. And then nobody remembers her after she's dead. Nobody even brings her up. It's like they all forgot she existed. So there's some karmic irony to that, I guess. But I think it's just bad writing. But, you know, if you think it's just karmic irony and you don't want to think of it as bad writing and you just love Danganronpa forever, you go ahead and do that. Guy, pal, friend, buddy. Also, while I'm thinking about it, I don't think I wrote this down there either. I mean, this is just some simple little thing. I was thinking, wait, so he had to ensure, you know, frickin' Nitrai lived to the end. One easy way to do that is to make sure that he's immune to the not immune to the suicide video, but his bangle doesn't have anything in him to wake him up. Yeah. So as long as he never gets woken up by the suicide video, that drastically decreases the chances that he dies. Because, like, there are 4 time limits, not counting Makoto, so 4 people die during the time limits. 5 if you count Kyoko, but whatever. Also, if we count Kyoko, 4 of the 5 people that die during time limits are females, just saying. Oh, and by the way, the only females that die in this anime die during the time limits, just saying. Do you know what that means, guys? Have you thought about that? Because I thought about that. The one guy that died during a time limit was Gozu. If Asahina had actually died, they all would have been girls. And it would have been all of the girls, except for Gekuhara, who's not really a real girl. But yeah, like, Chisa dies during the time limit. Psycho dies during the time limit. Ruka dies during the time limit. And you can sort of count Kyoko's dying during the time limit if you want to count it that way. If Asahina died too, that's all of them. And yeah, yeah. And so no girl died in some brutal way outside of the time limit. I mean, Chiaki and Despair, but we're talking about Future Arc. Whereas, aside from Gozu, a bunch of guys died. Like, Kizukura died, Bandai died, Tengen died, Izayoi died. I might be forgetting someone, I don't know. But they probably died. If I'm forgetting them, then they died, yes. If their name is not Munakata or Mitarai, and they are male, they died. I mean, Makoto didn't, but I'm talking about new characters. So yeah, that's just one way Tengen could have slightly helped the odds that Mitarai lived to the end, but he still could have potentially been killed by Munakata or some shit. Anyways, Chisa indirectly killed Chiaki, and I mean when she was hopeful. Right. So remember how earlier I said that Chisa sort of saved Nagito and Chiaki? Well, go back and watch Despair episode, I think it's 8? That's when, or is it 9? No, it's the beginning of 9 when, yeah, because the end of 8 is when Chiaki's like, Hajime, is that you? The beginning of 9, when Chisa saves Chiaki and Nagito, she kind of kills Chiaki when she does that. Because in both English and Japanese, at first I thought this might have been a dub thing. No, she says, Junko says this in Japanese as well. She says, I'm just going to have you watch a little video, implying the Despair video, which means Chiaki was going to watch the Despair video as well, and become a Despairful student, and potentially be saved in the future. But because Chise had to fuck things up, she had to come in and intervene. That gave Junko enough time to be like, no, I can use Chiaki for my next Despair video, and that's what killed Chiaki. In other words, fuck you, Chisa, you killed Chiaki. I don't know, it's just something I thought of, but, that makes her extra despairful. I mean, she did it when she was Hope, and I know she did it inadvertently, but then she did it very verdantly, but then she was Despair, so it doesn't really count, but that whole because it was Despair, it doesn't really count thing does bug me. I haven't written that down either, but the fact that the brainwashing was done with the videos does hurt a lot of the morality in, like, because in Danganronpa 2, the whole thing is, oh shit, these characters turned evil at some point. They gave in to despair and became bad people. And Makoto trying to save them, you can understand why the Future Foundation would not be okay with that. These are bad people. You can revert them all they want. They might just easily lapse back into being bad people. Turns out they were just brainwashed. They're not really bad people. Nobody brainwashed by Junko is really a bad person. It's a little too happy-go-lucky, and I don't like it. I feel like they handled it in a way where it's not terrible. It could have been worse, but it does hurt the morality of the end of Danganronpa 2 being like, oh shit. Because Hajime was the only one who was exempt from that, who was definitely a different person. But for the rest of them, you thought they just became bad people from Junko manipulating them with normal manipulation and not with, like, brainwashing. Like, over time, slowly, they became worse and worse people. Which shows they have the capacity to become naturally worse and worse people instead of, you know, brainwashing, as it were, with the video. I mean, you can still become a bad person sort of naturally with brainwashing, but, like, the video brainwashing is... That's sort of messing with brainwaves, and at that, anyways. Yeah, what else was I saying? Shoot, tangents. Do I have anything else to say about that? About the morality thing? I mean, it sort of hurts, like, in a way it's kind of good that Tengen was the villain, assuming he didn't fall to despair. If they had handled him better, it would have been better. But if Chisa had just been the villain, and it just turned out, oh, she was just despair because Junko disparified her with the video in a way that lessens it because it's just another extension of Junko. But you could argue, oh, this is the legacy Junko left behind. I guess I kind of am okay with that. It goes a couple ways. Anyways, okay, what else do we got? Mention the Danganronpa 2 cast coming back to life controversy. Sure, okay. I didn't get angry at this at all. I was fine with it when it happened, but after looking it up on TV Tropes, I noticed people were not okay with it. I'm not surprised that people aren't okay with it, because, it's just more no balls, and, you might have wanted the deaths in Danganronpa 2 to be final, but I predicted they'd all come back to life anyways at the end of Danganronpa 2, and I really wanted Nagito to, so we could have a Nagito Makoto off. So, if everybody else has to unfortunately come back to life just so Nagito can, fine, sure, whatever. No, but seriously, I predicted they were all going to come back to life at the end of Danganronpa 2, if you see my Let's Play, and knowing that they come back to life in Danganronpa 3 kind of makes me wish they just came back to life at the end of Danganronpa 2. I think I would have preferred that. Yeah, I didn't really mind it. I thought it was fine. Because that wasn't really... It's not like not bringing them back has no balls, because Izuru is ultimate bullshit, and they aren't technically dead, so I'm fine with them saving them. I really am. And it's not like not bringing them back is gonna tug on our heartstrings again. I don't know. I mean, you could argue the same thing with Kyoko and Asahina. Asahina, not really, but Kyoko, it's not really the same thing. And the reason it's not the same thing is because a big part of why it's not the same thing is because Kyoko knew she wasn't really going to die. She did that in a way to make sure she lived. She used the medicine to make sure she lived through it, and the creators knew that she knew. Whereas all the Danganronpa 2 cast thought they were dying for real. So the impact is kind of the same. It's not the same, and I get why people are mad about it. I'm not mad about it. Maybe I'm just not mad about it because I wanted the Nagito Makoto off and I got it, so I'm okay with all the other things that happened because of that. I wanted more of a Nagito Makoto off, but we got a little bit of one, and I got like a slightly different one in Japanese and English, so I sort of got an extended one in a way, and it's fine. What else? I'm thinking if there's anything else to say about that controversy. Honestly, I would have traded all of them for Chiaki, except for Nagito. Nagito had to come back to life. I would not trade all of them for Chiaki. I would trade all of them but Nagito. I would trade Hajime, including Hajime, if Chiaki could have somehow came back. I really was predicting she would just be alive the whole time. Even after, the end of Despair 10, I thought she was just gonna be alive. I thought Izuru was gonna save her. I was more confident she'd be alive than any of the characters from Danganronpa 2 would come back. It kind of came out of nowhere, but, I mean, I didn't mind it, but it came more out of nowhere when they came back, versus Chiaki coming back to me seemed more natural. It seemed like once I saw that she was a real girl, that she wasn't just an AI from Danganronpa 2, although she kind of was because she died, and they did just use a memory program to get her AI, and that's so stupid! That's so stupid! They used a memory program to get her AI, so it could have just been any old AI, but it's based off their memories, so, I don't know, to me, I wasn't even thinking that that was an option, the whole memory thing. Now, is that based off, I know Gekko Kohara was part of the Neo World program, and I know, what's-his-face from Danganronpa 0 worked on the memory loss thing with Junko. I don't remember exactly how that went. It's been a while since I've read 0. But, if they had put more of that in, like 0 stuff, for one thing, Danganronpa 0 stuff, but also, just the memory loss thing, and if they had used that and foreshadowed more that this whole memory personality Chiaki thing was a thing, I'd be more okay with it. But they didn't, so I'm just left thinking, I thought for sure Chiaki had to live through it. Even if she had, died in Hope Arc episode, she had lived the whole time, but then seeing all of her classmates alive again or something, let her pass on, and just, she was not comatose, but on life support, and then she had to die, or if she was just alive, but then completely crippled, whatever, I think it would have made more sense. Not just because I like her, sure, but it would have made more sense. Her being alive, being a real girl, but then dying before her AI can even be implemented, it comes into nowhere, and I don't like it, and I'll never like that, unless they foreshadowed more with the memory stuff, and they didn't. So, moving on. That's a voice actor thing, Come back to that later. Mention how the finale episode being double length would have been really nice. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have to say anything about that. Yeah, the finale episode being double length would have been really nice. Because, like, Makoto does nothing in that episode. I mean, it seemed okay at the time, and it's still kind of okay because Makoto sort of beat Munakata, but Munakata didn't do much at that point because, like, I feel like he should have gotten more of a moment of, oh yeah, I'm on the side of hope now, look at me, be useful. Because they just, Azuru's gang sort of, like, stole the spotlight. And I was okay with that and how Makoto didn't get in the way of that final confrontation. And I was okay with, honestly, Makoto not doing anything else. I feel like he'd done his piece by saving Munakata, but I think Munakata and some of the other survivors, like Ruka, if she had survived in my alternate reality headcanon where she actually went on to be not a filler character, that could have been something. Monica, if she had showed up, she could have helped them, because that's the thing. Like, even though she's a bad guy, she likes despair. She doesn't want the world to go hopeful. That could have been a fun thing. Like, oh, Monica's gonna help them defeat him because she doesn't want the world to be all hopeful. She wants despair. But then maybe at the end of it, she could get away in the last moment, and so, she'd, like, get away, and, like, oh, there'd still be despair in the world, sort of like what Izuru did. Hajime and the rest pretended like there was still despair in the world in that Hope Arc episode, but Monica would have actually been despair. And also a possibility is if, like, Ruka could have teamed up with Monica. That's something I thought of. I don't know, I'm just saying stuff I thought of. If Ruka had lived on, maybe, she would have latched on to Monica or something, because she's very much a cowardly character, and seems like the person to latch on to people when push comes to shove, and after her breaking point, and she definitely broke. That's one idea. And maybe they could have had a little epilogue scene of, like, Nagisa confronting Monica and stuff, and her new slave Ruka. I don't know, just thoughts. But yeah, the finale being double length would have been really nice because it would have been given more time for characters that weren't the Danganronpa 2 cast to do stuff, and to more properly introduce the freaking bad guys they were facing. They came out of nowhere, all of these Hope guys that apparently were, like, fighters and stuff that we never saw in the show. If they had given either a double-length finale episode, I think that's all they really needed. If they did my fix stuff that I've mentioned, and then, honestly, obviously the show being, like, 24 episodes would have been nice, but even, like, a solid 15, 16, I talk about how it's really silly that Baccano has 16 episodes, and I don't even bother watching the last 3. I stopped. I watched the first of the last 3, and I'm like, this is stupid, and I didn't bother. But, Baccano's great, don't get me wrong, but once you get to the point where it's only 3 episodes left, so you don't have to watch the other 3, in my opinion. But, I mean, you can. It ties up some loose ends, but it's not very good, in my opinion. But let's not talk about Baccano. We're talking about Danganronpa 3. It could have used, like, 4 or 5 more episodes, but also the last episode, just being double length, would have helped a lot. Like, having 1 more episode, I think would have helped a lot. Having 2 more, a little bit. 3 would have been nice. I mean, but after 1 more, they would have needed, like, 3 or 4 more for it to really make a huge difference, I think. But, that's all of that. I think that's all of the shit. I'm looking at my papers here with my notes. I think that's all I have to say about stuff that doesn't involve the Japanese to English. So let's talk about that. Okay, where do I fucking begin? So, let's begin here. So I basically marathoned through the Japanese version. Originally I was just going to watch the first and last episodes and then a few important ones in between, but I got suckered in and I wound up watching all of them. I skipped some parts here and there when I didn't care, or focused in on parts I did care. The only episode I don't think I watched was Despair Arc episode 11. I didn't bother watching that one. But, yeah, so, how do I want to start? Okay, I have a bunch of script changes, and I talk about whether or not I like the dub more or the Japanese more. It's usually the dub more, by the way. I feel vindicated, by the way. I'll start there. I knew I wanted to watch the dub of this, partially because of the Danganronpa 2 cast, and I like the Danganronpa 2 cast, but also because for reaction purposes, and just for naturally watching up for watching the dub. Unless the dub is bad or doesn't exist, I don't want to watch the sub because I have to train my eyes on the bottom of the screen the whole time. So for me to want to watch the sub over the dub has to be a lot worse than the sub. And it's not. It is not a lot worse than the sub. I'd even argue. I've seen a lot of dubs in my time. I've seen some bad ones. I've seen some good ones. This is a good one. This is a pretty darn good dub. I'd argue I think it's overall maybe even a better experience than the sub, and that's not even counting the fact that I don't want to look at the bottom of the screen the whole time. Obviously, opinions are opinions, and I'm kind of biased because I watched the dub first. But based on my experience, I got comments saying, "Oh my god, dub is shit. Why are you watching the dub? Why did you do this? You should have watched the sub." I've done it now. I've watched the sub, and I think I was right to watch the dub. I think it is a slightly. I look like there's a lot of little things I'm like, okay, Japanese is better here, dub is better here. I found more things that I thought the dub was better than things that I thought the Japanese was better. So I don't know. I just feel vindicated for watching the dub. Anyways, let's start with all those little things. So I have a lot of script changes, but let's start with just talking about character differences and voices and takes on the character. I have a list of all the important characters here, so I don't accidentally skip anyone. Let's go through the quick ones first, and then save the, like, skip Monokuma, come back to Makoto, come back to Nagito, come back to Kyoko. Asahina, this one's easy. Dub is better. I'm biased in this one, I guess. I just like the sound of the dub actor's voice. She's one of my favorite actresses at the moment. I just like the sound of her voice, and she's a good actor, so I'm just gonna prefer her over somebody else who's a good actor, as good as her or worse, and does not sound as pleasing to my ears as she does. Yeah, both compared to the Japanese actor and the game dub actor, I prefer the anime dub actor. She's a really good actor, and I like the sound of her voice, so of course I like the dub actor better. Next, Munakata, that's a long one. Come back to that. She's, oh, this is actually kind of a quick one. I like the dub better. I mean, I think what it comes down to is I saw the dub first, and that really colored my perspective of the kind of character Chise was, and then I watched the Japanese, and it sort of ruined it, because, honestly, it's the pitch of her voice. When I first heard it, I'm like, oh my god, this doesn't work. How does this work for Chise? It doesn't work at all. She doesn't have the same motherly quality. It's too high pitch. It doesn't work. As I listen to more of it, she's a good actor. The Japanese actor who plays Chise is really good. I do not think it fits Chise whatsoever. Maybe that's just because I watched the dub first. I don't know, but I did. She works really well as a motherly teacher figure to the Danganronpa 2 cast in the dub. In Japanese, it doesn't work because her voice is higher pitched than even some of the students. Don't get me wrong, she's a fine actor. I don't think her voice fits. Even if it did fit, I don't know. Would I say, let's say it did fit. Do I think her voice or Chise's dub voice is better? I don't know. I think as acting skills go, maybe Japanese Chise is a little better at times, to be honest, but doesn't matter because the dub voice sounds a lot more appropriate to me. But yeah, no, the Japanese one's great. It just sounds completely wrong to me. Next, Juzo, come back to that. Tengen. Sure, Tengen's weird. So I think the dub one's a better actor, but the Japanese one sounds more fitting, if that makes sense, like the opposite of Chise. There's a lot of really cool delivery that Tengen delivers in the dub, and I just love the way he says it. I'm like, oh, that's so juicy. And then in Japanese, he just says it so, not like so, like, I'm just an old man. And he has more of an I'm an old man voice, and that's what I mean by it fits him better, I guess. But the dub one just, I feel, is just acting better. So, yeah, make of that what you will. Next, Mitsurai. Sure, let's talk about Mitsurai. I like the dub one more. I think that's just bias. I don't know. I think the dub one's a bit better. I don't know. The Japanese one's okay. When I first heard it, it sounded wrong. It sounded too low-pitched for once. That's pretty rare. In the Japanese versus English, usually the English has the lower-pitched voice, but because Japanese considers higher pitch more sexy, which I went over in my Zero Scale LP. But yeah, so Mitsurai sounded off-putting to me for a while, and I don't know. I got to the end, and I'm like, he's not bad. Japanese Mitsurai is okay. I do think the dub one's better, though, and I heard it first, and his voice sounds more fitting to me in the dub. Maybe that's just because I heard the dub first. I don't know. I like the dub more. Whatever, fight me. Great Goju. This one's easy. Great Goju dub is way better. I mean, he's hammier. The Great Goju is all about, I am the Great Goju! And I think the dub does that better. He's a very short, not very many lines character that should have had maybe some kind of role in Dispark that he didn't, unfortunately. But for what he was hammy. And the dub did the ham better. So, yeah, that's that. Next is Bandai. Who cares? Both fine. Next. Kimura. Kimura's a weird one. So, as I said, I really like the dub Kimura. I think she does a great job. The Japanese one, they're kind of giving different takes on the character, I guess. This isn't the only occasion of that. But the Japanese one, when Kimura goes crazy, she goes more creepy crazy. The English one, when she goes crazy, she just goes more, I'm gonna rip your face off crazy. More like hardcore, rah, crazy than, ooh, crazy. Which is sort of what Japanese Kimura does. I don't think either approach is wrong. I think they both work fine. I mean, I like the dub actor more, sort of like with Asahina's actor. I just like the sound of the dub actor's voice. So I'd say I like dub Kimura a bit more, but I don't know. Japanese Kimura is fine. Next. Izai. Okay. I think I like the Japanese a bit more in this one. The dub actor's fine, but the especially when complemented with Ruka's voice, which is higher pitched in this, and his is lower pitched, so they have a really good like deep and high thing going on. They really their voices complement each other really well. The sounds of their voices better than in the dub. And I think part of that is what makes me like Japanese Izaya better, because honestly, Izaya's character is just complimenting Ruka. That's all there is to Izaya's character. So if the Japanese does that better, then I guess the Japanese is better. Honestly, though, I think he delivers lines a bit better. Although there are a couple lines, which this is partially just due to script changes, which I think I enjoyed so much of the dub that Izaya did that were not in the Japanese, but I think that's just because of script changes. Because the dub made a lot of script changes, and I love a lot of them. One of them, okay, this is only a slight change. I say it made a lot of changes. It only made a few major changes, but it made a lot of slight changes that I think were mostly a good idea. And one of those changes was when Izayoi went to, at the beginning of episode 5 of Future, as Izayoi was confronting Psycho Kimura, in the dub, what I love, this made me laugh, and I was like, oh, it's so cool, it's like epic, and it's funny. It's like, I will kill you in the name of sweets, or deliciousness. And it was great, it was deliciousness, I love it. In the Japanese, though, it's just a lot more basic, and I think that's what a lot of these script changes come down to. Keep in mind, every script change I'm talking about here has to do with Crunchyroll's subtitles. If I say anything that sounds wrong to you, maybe you watched on a fan site, I don't know where else you would watch this legally. I'm going off Crunchyroll subs, so if they suck, that's not my fault, it's their fault. Yeah, Izoya just says something like, I will kill you for love and deliciousness, and just, I don't know, maybe it's because I couldn't hear him and didn't understand Japanese, so it's not, doesn't have as much of a funny effect. But that's the thing, I don't understand Japanese. I rely on the subtitles and what little I can understand of the voice acting to convey me through. But in the dub, I don't need to rely on the subtitles and what they're saying, and I can rely on just the voice acting. And so that's another reason that even if, like, the subtitles are slightly wrong, or it's better if you understand Japanese, I don't, sorry. Yeah, in the dub, he's like, I'll kill you in the name of deliciousness. I think that works a lot better than you will die now because of love and sweets or something. It was slightly different, but it was slight in a way that I think is really good. And that's what a lot of these script changes, not all of them, but some of them come down to is, it's like, yeah, it's just, Japanese is so basic, and the English one, it makes it a lot more fun and lively. And, yeah, and I think, I don't know if that's just because I don't understand Japanese, and they have to tone it down for the subtitles, because obviously it's not a one-to-one translation. You're never going to get a one-to-one translations with subtitles. If you want a one-to-one translations, learn Japanese. With the subtitles, they have to be basic to an extent, and that's why the dub, that's why I enjoy dubs more than, that's another reason I enjoy dubs more than, so, moving on, I actually talked a little while about him, but, Ruka, I mean, I've already talked about the other two, so I guess I should talk about her. No, she's going to take a while. I'm going to come back to her. Kizukura. I think I like the Japanese better. I like the dub fine. The dub's fine. I mean, with one exception, the dub is always fine. But, I do think I got behind the Japanese Kizukura more after a while. First, it was off-putting, because the voice, it's always going to be off-putting at first when you hear a new voice, and you're used to a different tone of voice. But as I got more used to it, I grew to like Japanese Kizukura more and more. I think overall I like him a bit more. Dub's still great, but I like Japanese Kizukura more. Next, Monica. I have a lot to say about that one. Next, Komaru. I'm going to come back to that one. Toko Genocider, sure, this one's simple and easy. Japanese is better than English, but English game is better than Japanese. Let's say that, yeah. Um, I really don't like the English Toko. I shouldn't say I really don't like it. I don't like the English Toko, though. She's not bad, she's just different from game English Toko, and I really like game English Toko. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, like game English Asahina, game English Yasuhiro, I think they're fine at best. I don't think they're great. But with Toko, I do think she's pretty great. And so when you put her somebody else who sounds very different, I'm like, no, thank you, ma'am. So yeah, game dub voice of Toko is better than Japanese Toko, which is better than English anime Toko. So there's that. Also, I really like how English game Toko uses two different voices, whereas anime Toko does not, and I prefer the game. So, next, Byakuya. Who? Was he even in this anime? Not really. I, his Japanese is better, I guess? I don't know. His dub is more emotive at times, emotional, but I think part of the Japanese Byakuya's thing is that he doesn't really emote, and it's not the actor, because in the scene where, they do that, they do Toko's Fantasy. Byakuya gets all kind of smexy in that scene. So that actor does know how to act, definitely. I think he's just playing Byakuya as, like, really cold on purpose, and I think he pulls the coldness off well. I think I like Japanese Byakuya a bit more than dub Byakuya. It doesn't really matter because I don't like Byakuya, and he doesn't do anything at all in this anime, but for what it's worth, I think Japanese Byakuya is a bit better. Yasuhiro. Also doesn't matter that much. I guess I like the dub a bit more. I think I like dub Yasuhiro a bit more than Japanese Yasuhiro. And I don't know, game Yasuhiro, dub game comes in there somewhere. I don't know. Who cares? They don't matter much. They don't matter much. They really don't matter much. I don't know. I think I like the anime dub one of the three voices. I don't want to say I like him the best, but I like the sound of his voice the best, and there's not much to judge acting chops off of. I know Kizukura's slash Yasuhiro's game voice actor does a good job, can do a good job, but I remember him being pretty bland in Danganronpa 1, which that's the thing. I thought overall Danganronpa 1's dub in the game wasn't very good, because I was coming off of the Danganronpa 1 anime, and when I first heard a lot of those dub voices, and at first they sounded off, but I mean, sounding off is fine if they can do whatever they're trying to do good, and a lot of them didn't sound like they did it good. I think a lot of just Danganronpa 1 game dub in general didn't sound very good, in my opinion. I think that the rest of the Danganronpas have in general improved on the whole voice acting front, but I don't think the Danganronpa 1 game had very good dub voice acting, in my opinion. That was my opinion. But hey, let's not talk about that. Let's not talk about it anymore. Monami. Okay, here's the easy win for Japanese, I guess. You guys know, this was the one voice in the dub that kind of pissed me off, and I'm glad we stopped hearing it after a while. Monami slash Usami slash whatever you call her has an ugly sounding voice in English. It sounds really ugly. I mean, it still sounds kind of ugly in Japanese, but it's not as ugly, so it gets the automatic win. Honestly, the Japanese one does sound a bit more endearing, and I think is just a better actor. And yeah, so I prefer the Japanese. There you go. Easy win for Japanese for once. Has there been any other easy wins for Japanese? Not really. Not yet. Okay. Who am I coming back to? Let me actually get a pencil and mark this off. Okay. I've done Asahina, so I'm going to put a plus sign through this. I've done Shisa. I did Tengen. I did Mitsurai. Doing it live. I did Great Gozu. I did Bandai. I did Kimura. I did Izue. I did Kizukura. Didn't do them. I did Toko. I did Byakuya. I did Yasuhiro. I did Monami. Okay, cool. So I still gotta come back to some of them. Junko, I'm gonna save that one. That one's juicy. We're coming back to that one. Wait, why am I putting the mark there? I'm coming back to it. God damn it. God damn it, me. What am I doing? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm a terrible blogger. I don't know. Makuro, let's talk about this. So, Makuro, she's just Junko's voice. Same thing as, in the Japanese, they both share a voice, and it's weird to me. And I think it'd be better if there was a different voice actor. I guess the idea is, oh, Makura's in love with Junko. She's in love with herself because they have the same voice. I mean, I don't like that. I mean, personally, I prefer the Danganronpa if Makuro. I think she's a much more enjoyable, likable character, and she's definitely a different character. I think this is more realistic, though. I do think, I still feel that the Makuro portrayed in the Danganronpa 3 anime makes more sense. Like, I can see her following Junko, whereas the Danganronpa if Makuro, I'm like, why did she follow Junko all this time? It doesn't really work. I don't know. Maybe they could have made it work, but they chose not to. So, yeah, anyways, Makuro. I think Japanese Makuro is a bit better. I don't know. I think the Japanese actor is better at making the two characters sound distinct, whereas English Makuro just kind of sounds like, oh, you're Junko, but not as interesting sounding. I think, I don't know, maybe it's just because I don't understand what they're saying, and I'm not used to the voice, but I think Japanese Makuro pulls it off a bit better. It's not that important, honestly. Makuro's not that important in the overall things, but hey, point to the Japanese, I guess, by a bit. The dub one's fine, but point to the Japanese. I'm not really keeping track of these points, but if you want to, go for it. Imposter. Ooh, that one's interesting. I'm gonna come back to that. Teru. Point to the Japanese! Yeah. I remember when I first saw Teru, I'm like, oh, okay, you're gonna have a weird voice. And then the voice was not weird. It was normal, and I thought it should have been weird. And it was weird that it wasn't weird. The Japanese Teru, I think, sounds better. It sounds more weird. And I think that's what it comes down to. I wanted it to sound weird, and it didn't sound weird, and that was really weird that it didn't sound weird. And now it sounds weird in Japanese. Japanese Teru is weirder, and I think that's what it comes down to. Also, script changes, by the way. The dub tries to be more stealthy with their innuendos, but Japanese Teru just hits you right in the fucking face. He's like, yeah, that's right, I'm gonna mention my fucking penis. I have a penis. That's like the kind of stuff Teru in Japanese says, where in English he tries to be more suave about it. That's part of what makes me want to punch him in the face, is that he's trying to be suave. Just say your fucking penis. I think I would have liked Japanese if they played off Teru in Japanese the same way they did in English in Danganronpa 2. I think I would have liked him more. I don't know if I would have liked him, but I don't think I would have disliked him as much. I like Japanese Teru more because he's more overt, but yes, I have a penis, and I'm going to make jokes about it. Come at me, bro. Or sis, because I go both ways. Whereas, yeah, the English one tries to be suave and overt, and no, not overt. He tries to be sneaky, and I'm like, dude, just wave your dick out, man. Be like Japanese Teru. Okay, that one's done. Peko. This one's the shock of the century. So when I started Despair Arc, I remember not liking Peko's new dub voice because I was used to the game dub voice, and so it was very differently toned, and I didn't really like the change, but I got used to it, and now I like it, and I think dub Peko is better than Japanese Peko, in my opinion. I mean, a lot of the Danganronpa 3 characters honestly don't play that big of a role, but for what it's worth, I do think dub Peko, anime dub Peko, is my favorite Peko. Now that the whole, oh my god, your voice sounds so different, that's weird, has worn off, I like her more than, I think she gives the best interpretation and reads than the other, both the game dub Peko and Japanese Peko. I prefer anime dub Peko, so take that as you will. Next, Mahiru. Mahiru is the funny one. You see, I think I like the dub better, sort of, but not really, because the dub, as I've said, it makes script changes, sure. For some reason, they always make these weird script changes with what Mahiru says. And I remember finding the lines weird, even when I was just watching the dub. I didn't really say anything, but because I wasn't sure if it was just the dub or... And then I went back and watched the Japanese, and I'm like, no, it's just the dub. They give Mahiru a lot of weird script changes. Like, for example, in the dub, Mahiru's like, not to sound flip, whereas in Japanese, she just says something normal. And it happens several times with Mahiru specifically, is that she says something really dumb in Japanese. Usually the script changes, I think, are clever. But, you know, in Mahiru's case, specifically Mahiru's case, for the most part, the things she says in English are just dumb. I like her voice, I think, better in English, but she says dumb things. So, I don't know, point to both. I don't know, point to script to the Japanese, point to voice to the English, I guess. I don't know. Japanese Mahiru is fine, but I do prefer English Mahiru as far as how her voice sounds. Next, Ibuki. Point to the dub. Point to both dubs. I really like game dub Ibuki. I've grown to really like anime dub Ibuki. I don't think Japanese Ibuki is that great. Maybe I didn't get enough time to get used to her. It's kind of hard to in Danganronpa 3 anime. Maybe if I went back and did Danganronpa 2 and heard all that in Japanese, which I'm not going to do. But if I did that, maybe I'd be more used to Japanese. But no, it's not just that. Japanese Ibuki, oh, have I written this down somewhere? Yes, I have. I'll get back to this in a second. Japanese Ibuki, sounds fluffy. I don't know if that makes sense to you. She sounds too fluffy. And I prefer the brusqueness, the, oh yeah, stick it to the man of, the both dubs. And in the Japanese, she sounds too fluffy. And I don't like the floaty, fluffy voice in her. Does that make sense? I like the dub better. Let's just go with that. Now, where is... I have a thing here about Ibuki. I might as well bring it up now. I have two things about Ibuki, actually. First of all, I prefer Ibuki's lyrics being indecipherable. That's the thing. Apparently, she's actually saying real things. I just thought that was the dub doing nonsense, saying her voice is nonsense. She does nonsense lyrics from some some crazy dead language, maybe. No, though, she's doing the Japanese song, and in Japanese they give her lines lyrics, and I hate it! I don't want subtitles for those lyrics. I like it better when she's just doing nonsense. When there's actually subtitles to what she's saying, that hurts Ibuki as a whole. I like Ibuki better when she just sings nonsense. I don't know. I just like Ibuki better when she sings nonsense. When you add lyrics to that, and you say that, no, she's saying real words, that hurts part of my perception of Ibuki, and I don't like it. I like it better when she sings nonsense. Anyways, so yeah, but even aside from that, I prefer dub Ibuki. Anyways, next, Kyoko. Not much to say about this one. I like Japanese better, I guess. Dub's fine. I think Japanese is a bit better. That's all. Next. I think Japanese can pull off older Hyoko a bit better. Like, when I saw older Hyoko for the first time in the dub, or not for the first time, but when I went back, when I saw older Hyoko for the first time in Japanese, no, that's right. When I saw older Hyoko for the first time in the dub, it sounded a bit weird, because Hyoko, like, her voice fits really well for younger Hyoko, but for older, it feels weird. But it feels less weird in Japanese. I mean, it's still kind of just as young of a voice, but it almost fits more because Japanese is just into the higher pitches sexy. I don't know. That's just something I thought of. It clicked in my mind that, yeah, it feels more fitting in Japanese, which is weird. But I don't know. Dub's fine. I like Japanese a bit more. Next, Mikon. Dub is better. I mean, I still don't really like Mikon as a character. I think she's a torture Sue. But, as far as the torture aspect, that's another thing. I do think that English Mikon is just generally better than Japanese Mikon. Japanese, again, sort of sounds floaty, but what's more important is I think English Mikon is way better at playing a horn dog. English Mikon is so much better at playing a horny despair person. Japanese Mikon does not hold a candle to English Mikon when it comes to being a slut. I mean, that sounds kind of rude, but it's true. Part of this is script changes, and I think the English just having some more seductive script, but part of it is just the acting. The English actor for Mikon is just much better at sounding like somebody who gets me rock hard. And I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? That's what Despair Mikon's all about. Anyways, but no, like, a lot better, I mean. Like, I think English Mikon is a bit better than Japanese Mikon, but when she's Despair, she's a lot better than Japanese Mikon. Anyways, next, Nekomaru. Both are fine. I like the dub. I like the Japanese. There are a couple choice lines that I prefer in the dub that Nekomaru happens to say, but that's more of a script thing. I don't really have a preference in their voice. They're both fine. Next, Gundam. Japanese is better, but, and this is a big but, I don't know if I like the game dub voice better than the Japanese voice. Maybe it's just been a while. I think I like the game dub voice better than the Japanese, but what matters, comparing this, is, honestly, here's what matters. There's two things that matter. Okay, I'm getting all flustered now. Let me preface this. So, in Despair Arc episode... number 1. In Despair Arc episode 1, Gundam, as Gundam's being introduced, Chisa says something like, Tanaka, where are you? And then she's about to say, gun, and then she gets cut off, and then Tanaka's like, do not speak the forbidden name. And this is actually a script change I do not like in English. It's one of the few. In Japanese, she gets, saying Gundam gets cut off, and this ends up coming back during the finale in Hope Arc when he finally says the name Gundam, and it's like a big deal, and it's like, oh, it's epic! But in the dub, she does not get cut off saying Gundam, and they don't really make it a big deal that his name is Gundam. I mean, they sort of do anyways, but it's not as big of a deal because they didn't really foreshadow it properly. She just says, Tanaka, where are you? And I don't remember exactly what she says, but she doesn't start to say the name Gundam, which I think is important, because it was this nice, like, Tanaka being like, no, Gundam is a sealed name. I'm embarrassed of the name. I don't know if he was embarrassed of the name or not or whatever, but I don't know. That's kind of what it felt like. But then later on, he's like, my name is Gundam! But here's what's important. Even though I do think Japanese is better for that aspect, and I think it's really dumb that, I don't know, maybe it just didn't fit the flaps. I don't know. I really, they should have enforced it somehow, that Gundam was like a forbidden name. That did not come across to me at all in the English version, whereas that came across clear as plain as day in the Japanese. But anyways, when they get to the epic, you know, my name is Tanaka Gundam, which is really, that's really the only line that fucking matters, let's be honest. All the rest of Gundam's lines, who cares? I do think Japanese is better for basically all the rest of Gundam's lines, but for that line, Japanese botched it hard. And oh my god, Scott, Kaiser Neko did such a good delivery. I don't know how much of that was direction, how much is just him being awesome, but that, my name is Gundam! I was so good in English, and so shit in Japanese. I'm sorry. First of all, he ruins it by saying Gundam prematurely before the big reveal, in my opinion. But then when he says Gundam, it sounds all awkward and clunky, like he needed to take a drink of water and try again. That's what it sounded like to me in the Japanese version anyways. So yeah. Because like, if you go back and listen, first of all, he says Gundam twice, instead of just saving it for the one big Gundam, which I think is better. And second of all, when he says Gundam the second time, it sounds not great. So, yeah, Japanese is better, except for the one line that really matters, so I guess dub is better? You decide. Next, Chiaki. This is actually a short one. Japanese is better. A bit. I love dub Chiaki. Japanese is a bit better. Pretty much. Oh, wait, there's one other thing I wanted to say, actually, now that I think about it. Did I write this down, though? I don't think I wrote this. Wait, it would be on this page. I don't think I wrote this down. Wait a second. I'm just making sure. I did not write this down, but I'm still going to mention it. Chiaki, I mean, maybe I should come back to this when I talk about Junko, actually. You know what? I have a spiel I want to say about Chiaki's execution scene, but it partially involves some Junko talk, so I think I'll wait till I get to Junko to talk about this. Let's just say in general, I like Chiaki in Japanese a bit more. I still really love English Chiaki. Japanese I like a bit more. Next, remember to talk about that when I get to Junko, I guess. Akane, I like the dub more. I think it's a bit better. The Japanese isn't... It's not terrible. I think game dub is better than Japanese, and I think anime dub is better than game dub. But, yeah. That's all I have to say. Dub is better. Next. Kazuichi. That's not my soda cans. I'm sorry. He has a deep voice, and maybe he works as a butt monkey just fine. That's not my soda cans. Like, my soda cans, that deep voice just doesn't work. He seems like a fine voice actor. That's not my soda cans. I like dub better. Even if it's just for, I don't know, call it nostalgia, call it bias, whatever. That's not my soda cans. Dub is better. I much prefer listening to the dub soda cans. It just doesn't work the same in Japanese as far as I am concerned. Next! Fuyuhiko. Okay, this was a bit of an acquired taste. I like dub better. I like both dubs better. I don't think Japanese Fuyuhiko is bad. I did it first. It grew on me. I do think it's kind of wrong that he sounds like a mafia guy and then he's actually a mafia guy. Because that was kind of part of the fun of Fuyuhiko, is that he looks like a little twerp and sounds kind of like a little twerp, but oh, he's a mafia guy. Oh shit, back up. In Japanese, he just sounds like a mafia guy. I think that hurts his character a bit, in my opinion. But I don't know. Yeah, I like both dubs better. If I had to pick between the dubs, I think I grew to like the anime dub a bit more. But maybe that's just because I haven't heard the game dub in a while. The game dub is great. Don't get me wrong. Honestly, maybe it's just because I haven't heard the game dub in a while. Maybe the game dub, if I heard it again, I'd like it more. I don't know. But I do think the Japanese is the weakest of the three. Because part of what I said, and also just because I don't like the sound of the voice as much. So yeah, alright, next, Sonya. Dub is better. Yeah. Again, Sonya sounds kind of floaty in Japanese. Actually, that's a thing for a few of them, honestly. Yeah, I mean, Sonya got shafted in this, honestly. As one of the survivors, I don't really care about Akane. I think Fuyuhiko had, honestly, he should have had some more stuff with his sister's death and all that, but him and Peko had a bit of development in this anime. Sodakan's also got a bit, but Sonya got super shafted. So, as a survivor, I really feel she should have done more, especially in Hope Arc. That's why maybe a double-length final episode would have been nice, but they didn't get it. But, you know, for what it was worth, I think Dub Sonya is a bit better. So, next, Hajime / Izuru. Nope, I'm going to come back to that one. That's everybody. Oh, there's a few other one-offs I didn't actually write down. Jin, I don't really have an opinion. Honestly, he didn't speak enough, and I may have skipped some of the parts where he really did speak. Jin Kirigiri, I don't know, pass. He's not that important. What does it matter? Neither voice sucked. That's all there is to it. I didn't particularly love either voice either, so there you go. What other minor characters did I not write down here? Fuyuhiko's sister. I like the dub better, but basically that's just because I like the sound of her voice, because she's one of my favorite actors. Yeah, that's basically what it comes down to. I mean, the Japanese seems to do it fine, but I like the sound of the dub actor's voice, so dub wins. And then the other girl, Mahiru's friend. Japanese is better. I felt more sympathetic for Mahiru's friend in Japanese. In dub, she seemed more like a bitch. And maybe she's supposed to seem like a bitch, but I think there was more sympathy to her in the Japanese version, and it made the whole situation a bit sadder. So, point to the Japanese there, I guess. What else? Oh, Nagisa. I mean, I can't really compare who's the better actor. I like the sound of the Japanese voice actor. I like the sound of the dub voice actor. I'm used to the dub voice actor from UDG. I thought the dub actor did really good in UDG. That's all I have to say. I like the dub actor more, I guess, but I can't really compare. Because Nagisa had fucking 2 lines or some shit. God damn it. UDG got shafted. Anyways, who does that leave? Who haven't I talked about? Hajime, Imposter, Junko, Komaru, Monica, Ruka, Juzo, Munakata, Kyoko, Nagito, Makoto, Monokuma. Let's do Komaru. This should probably be the quickest of all those. Komaru, is interesting because they went with a really high pitch in Japanese, and that was what came first, obviously. Different than both dubs. I still think that the game dub is the worst one. I was forced to get used to that through frickin' 50-something videos of frickin' Ultra Despair Girls. I don't think it fits. I still don't think it fits. Now that I've gotten to hear other takes on it, I doubly don't think Komaru's game dub voice fits. I mean, I had to get used to it, but now I got to get unused to it. No, the other two are just better. I don't want to say I dislike Komaru's voice actor, but I feel like almost every time I hear her in a role, I'm like, that's miscast. Cast somebody else. She doesn't work. I have heard a couple times, and this is honestly the only thing that's convinced me that I just don't hate this actor, a couple times I have heard her in a role where I'm like, yes, that fits her voice, the way she's speaking, that works. But only a couple times, and for the rest, I'm just like, no, she doesn't work. And she's like one of the highest rated on like behindthevoiceactors.com or something, which, I mean, good for her, but I guess the majority of populace does not agree with my opinion of her voice not fitting with most of the characters she's cast as. She's a good voice actor, I guess, her voice does not fit a lot of the characters she's cast as far as I'm concerned. Anyways, right, we're talking about the freaking anime dub versus Japanese. I like them both for certain reasons. I think the Japanese is a bit better overall. I like the sound of the English voice, and it's kind of cringy hearing the Japanese at times just because it's such a higher pitched voice and it's so different. But it's also cringy hearing the dub a bit because, I don't know, I don't know if these are just script or bad direction. She just sounds a bit cringy at times. I mean, the dub voice sounds more correct, but I think that's because I'm used to a lower pitched sounding voice. Whereas the Japanese voice, I like it because of the ambition, I guess. It's sort of a higher pitched voice to the extent that I guess you could say Chisa is, but with Chisa, it was just unacceptable because English pulled off the teacher vibe so well. I mean, the Japanese didn't really have that to worry about, so I had more of an open mind for that one. And I think it's cute. I think Japanese Kamaru's cute. Playing the game with Japanese Kamaru would have been really interesting because she's just so much cuter. Maybe that would have made all the scenes where she sobs in tears better because she's cuter and so it's break the cutie. I don't know. I think what I'm just coming down to is that they're both better than the game dub voice. But if I had to compare the two, I did. I think I like the anime dub better, but I like the Japanese for its ambition, even though it's not really ambition, but it's ambition if the dub came first and the Japanese came second, but it didn't, so it's not even really ambition, so I guess the dub is better. I don't know. They're both fine. They're both good. Japanese I do think is better overall and has less cringy lines, ignoring the fact that all the time she sounds cringy because her voice sounds so high-pitched. That's Kamaru done. Sure, let's go on the Monica train a little bit. First we'll talk about... No, I already talked about Nagisa, that's right. So yeah, we'll go on the Monica train. Oh my god, the dub is so much better. Oh my god. I mean, there have been other times, a lot of other times, where I'm like, I like the dub voice better, but this is a big one. At first I hated the Japanese, and then after a while I'm like, okay, it's alright, I guess, but the dub is so much better. The anime dub voice and the game dub voice. I think they're different people. If they're not, I fucking don't know. They're both great, so if they're the same person, double great. But honestly, one of the big things, the script changes that they make for the dub, specifically in regards to some stuff Monica says, are so good. And the stuff she says in Japanese is so bland by comparison. I think I have some of them written down, though. I do. I guess I'll come back to them later. There's actually a lot. Oh my god, yeah. There's a lot of these that are just Monica changes. And they're pretty much all in favor of the dub. Because, yeah, I just in general prefer Monica's dub voice, but I think the script favored the dub so much better anyways. And dub Monica pulled them off so well. But anyways, dub Monica. That's Monica. Honestly, the reason I skipped her at first is because I was thinking about talking about the script changes, but I'm like, nah, I'll get back to them later because there's so many to talk about anyways. Who's left? We've got Ruka. Ruka's gonna take a while. Skip. Let's talk about Imposter. Imposter's a weird one. So, while Imposter is imposternating using meteorized voice, I think he's better in Japanese because I think the Japanese meteorized voice suits the suaveness and the matureness that Imposter tends to show off more than the English meteorized voice. That said, when Imposter stops imposterating, when he goes to his regular, if that's even his regular appearance, and it's not just another, fake, because it could be a fake or it could be real, whatever, I like the dub better. The dub has more, it took more of a chance, it went more unique with the voice. I like when dubs take chances instead of just trying to imitate the Japanese, because the idea is a lot of times, and this is how it should be, I think, when you're doing any kind of adaptation, your primary audience should be people who have not seen the original. So you can't be bothered by, oh, this doesn't sound close enough to the original. As long as it sounds good, as long as whatever you're doing is good and doesn't completely fuck up whatever the overall Japanese narrative, not just the character, but overall, then it's good. Than trying to just imitate and doing a worse job. I want to say Japanese Imposter just sounded like Byakuya again, or just sounded like Mitrai again, or if it was its own voice, I couldn't tell. And it didn't sound very interesting. Dub Imposter voice sounded interesting. They gave more of a flair to him. He sounded more chubby, like he is. He's chubby, and he sounded chubby, and I liked him. I think he had better reads, and it was just more of an interesting voice. But when he was imposturating as Mitrai, I liked the Japanese better just because Mitrai's voice was deeper, so it worked better for him being kind of suave and mature at times. Suave. That's imposter done. Sure, let's talk about Junko because I don't want to forget about talking about the Chiaki execution thing. So English is way better. Okay, now people are going to yell at me in the comments if they haven't already. I'm sure they have. English Junko is an acquired taste, and I acquired it, so now I like it more. That's basically what it comes down to. When I first heard English Junko, it sounded weird. It definitely sounded weird. It sounds weird. It is, again, it's a unique, it's a very interesting decision they decided to take this character in the dub, and I am glad they took it. I think she is better for it, and while I didn't necessarily want it before I got it, now that I've got it, and I went back and watched the Japanese, I'm like, oh my god, that sucks by comparison. Look, the Japanese is fine. She's good. But I'm even now remembering back when I first watched Danganronpa 1, I guess I should talk about Monokuma at this point, huh? Out of order, whatever. Back when I watched Danganronpa 1 in Japanese, Monokuma, I love the original Japanese Monokuma voice. I know she's not really doing it anymore, but I love her so much. She's so good. She's one of my favorite things about Danganronpa. That when I first watched the anime, it was like just hearing her speak as Monokuma was so great. And then we got the reveal, and then she stopped speaking, and then it was Junko who was speaking. I'm like, this is lame. I want to get Monokuma back. Junko's not as interesting. But I mean, yeah, that's whereas I feel they finally managed to subvert that with anime Junko, and that's part of why I was so okay with anime Junko being around so much, because I was really pissed, obviously, at the end of Danganronpa 2 when she came back and it was bullshit. I would have enjoyed it more, though, if she had the anime dub voice. So, yeah, I do like the anime dub voice more than the game dub voice. Because the game dub voice, it's fine. The game dub voice is fine. The Japanese voice is fine. But they're just fine. They're nothing... I don't want to say they're nothing special. That's going to piss the people off. But, the dub can reach the same, the same depths that the Japanese does in terms of getting deep sometimes and getting super chipper sometimes, while also just being more interesting in general. This also led to a lot of script changes. I mean, I said Monika had some script changes, but I guess for as long as Monika was around, you couldn't really expect Monika to have as many as Junko, but I am glad they did this. I'm glad they stuck with it and didn't half-ass it. If you're going to go for a big change like this in an adaptation, stick with it and make it unique, and don't just half-ass it and then, oh, we're going to make it a very different style of, we're going to make her sound like a Valley Girl, but then all of the lines are going to be the same. No, give her lines that are appropriate. And I think they worked. I think they worked really well, and it hit, and it really hit. Now, if you don't like it, if you don't think it works, that's completely fine. I get it. It's a weird voice. I think it's a good weird. Some people think it's a bad weird. I think it's a good weird, though. Like I said, there's a bunch of script changes. I didn't really write any of the Junko-specific script changes down just because there's so many of them, and that's more of a character thing than a script change thing specifically. So I didn't feel the need to write all of those ones down. The Monika one, Monika still feels kind of like the same character in English and Japanese. She just has a better script to work with, I think, in English, which is why I wrote some of those down, but I didn't really write any of the Junko ones down. But, yeah, just know that most of them, I think, the dub is a good decision to change the script. But a couple of them sound cringy in the dub as a result of all the script changing. There's a couple misses, but mostly it's hits. Anyways, though, let's talk about that Chiaki execution, like I said. As I said, I think for the most part, Chiaki, I prefer the Japanese. Specifically in her death scene, when, Chiaki is all dying and stuff and talking to Hajime, I think Japanese Chiaki, nails it out of the park. But during the actual execution, before the death scene happens, I think overall the execution scene is done better in English. A lot of that has to do with Junko and me liking a lot of the script choices better in English. And I remember when I got to it in Japanese, I didn't think there was any way it would live up to how good it was in English. And I was right, it really didn't, because there wasn't as much flair. There was, of course, usual Junko flair, but there wasn't the added anime dub flair. And also, even with Chiaki, I think there's a few script changes in the dub. Not anything specific, but just slight wording changes, like with the whole Izayoi, I will kill you in the name of deliciousness. It's just slight enough that I favor the dub there, and I think Dub Chiaki gives some really good reads in the execution scene, like, the one where she's wiping her bloody hand on the monitor. Oh, what did she say? She said it so good, too. I remembered this, and now I'm forgetting it. Like, we're not gonna lose, not to someone like you! And she says it's so good. And the Japanese equivalent, I don't think was quite as good. I think, again, Japanese shogi overall is better, but I think in the execution scene overall, I think the dub gives a few better reads and performances and just some better scripting, I'd say. The Japanese wasn't bad by any means, but I enjoyed the dub execution more overall. If you want, enjoy is one way of putting it. Joy, I don't know, executing Chiaki if I'd use the word joy, but I think it was better done. But that's basically Junko done. I mean, yeah, nothing else to say about that. You either like it or you don't like it. And if you like it, you're probably like me and you really like it. And if you don't like it, well, you're probably like most people. In which case, well, it's okay to have wrong opinions. I'm sorry, what? I'm just kidding. I'm mostly kidding. I'm not kidding. I say I'm just kidding when I feel nervous about my strongly worded opinions. And I'm like, oh no, they're gonna hate me. Say I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding about that. I'm just kidding about, not just kidding about, just kidding about, just kidding. What? That is the entire right side of now my character list done except for Hajime. Do we want to do Hajime? I think I want to do Makoto first. Is there anybody else? Who else is there on the left side? Ruka, Juzo, Munakata. Oh, that's right. I should do Monokuma because I talked a little bit about Monokuma earlier already. So let's get Monokuma out of the way. Why don't we? So Monokuma was one of the ones that I was expecting to really love. One of the things I was expecting to really love about listening to the Japanese version, one of the reasons that maybe it would have been better to listen to the Japanese version instead of the dub. Yeah, it turns out I was wrong. The dub is better. Okay, so as I said, I really, really like the original Japanese Monokuma. I am aware there is a new Monokuma now, but I thought the new Monokuma voice actor didn't start doing the role until the Danganronpa 3 game. I didn't know they were in the Danganronpa 3 anime, so that was a very unpleasant surprise that it wasn't the Monokuma I was hoping it would be. And I don't think this actor is doing a very good job. Okay, that's not true. As the anime went on, I think it got better, but in that first episode especially, the first couple episodes, didn't sound very good. I don't know, maybe the actor was just getting used to the role or something, but later on it did sound better. And I certainly hope for, the people playing with the Japanese language in Danganronpa 3 game, I hope for their sakes that it is done better in the game. But for the purposes of this anime, I don't know, I guess they were just getting used to the role. I don't think it was done very well. I think it got better as the anime went along, but like Monokuma wasn't in the anime much anyways. But during the later parts, like some of the later recaps, I think the voice actor did a better job. But overall, I think the dub is just better. I know the anime dub, like, it's kind of weird for some people. It's even a bit weird for me, being used to the game dub. But I think the anime dub isn't bad. It's just different. If you get used to it, it's fine. And so, as far as that goes, I think the dub is better with Monokuma, which I did not think I would say. That sounds kind of crazy, but it's true, because I don't think Japanese... I think of the 4 Monokuma voices, my least favorite, by a good margin, is the new Japanese Monokuma. I haven't heard much of it, but from what I've heard, my favorite is the original Japanese Monokuma still, but my least favorite is the new Japanese Monokuma, and then the 2 dub Monokumas are somewhere in the middle, I don't know. I don't know which I would say I like more, the 2 dub Monokumas, like, probably the game one, but then maybe the anime one, probably the game one, but on Tuesday I like the anime one better. What? For me it was Tuesday, that's not how that trope works, whatever. I took a clip in the recording, I don't know if you noticed when, and I went and got some water, so I have that now. What's next? I did Monokuma, let's cross him off. I guess we can just get to... let's talk about Ruka now, why not? She's the last non-main character I have listed here. I don't know if you count Juzo as a main character, whatever. So Ruka is... how should I put this? She's definitely a case of the two actors doing different takes on the character. I don't even know if they're intentionally doing different takes. With a lot of the others, with a few of the other characters that I think are doing different takes, I think it's pretty intentional. With this one, it's just something that's coming through in the sounds of their voice. As I said, I think Izaya complements Japanese Ruka better. They have a better, complementary sounding duo voice of one being deep, one being higher pitched. But Ruka just stand alone. I think the dub character is more redeemable, whereas the Japanese character is more irredeemable and was more likely to, let's say, team up with Monica. If Ruka got to survive, I could see dub Ruka is more likely being redeemed and Japanese Ruka more likely being even further gone. What I mean by that, the reason I come to that conclusion is because dub Ruka is a bitch. She's a rich bitch, gotten everything she's always wanted. Maybe not to that extreme, but you know what I mean. She's that kind of character. And then she's thrust in a situation. She is not okay with this. She's probably had, obviously the despair incident, but she probably wasn't up close and personal wrapped up in the despair incident. So she's not used to some crazy bullshit like this happening. And she's kind of breaking down. And especially when Kimura dies, yes, sort of she tries to go after and kill Kimura, but it wasn't until Kimura actually died, I don't think, that it really hit her, how serious the situation was. And, and then she ends up killing Izayoi, and I feel like she's just a broken person after that point. Like she was a bitch who isn't really a villain, and then when thrust into the situation where she's dealing with all the death, and she's not used to it, it just broke her. And so she's very broken at the end of her arc. And I think she could be redeemed. I think she definitely could. She needs a lot of therapy. She's a very broken person. The Japanese Ruka feels different. It feels like a different person. And what I mean is, whereas dub Ruka feels like a bitch, like she's a bitch on the surface. She's a bitch who gets what she wants. She's kind of a bully, but she's not a terrible person. Japanese Ruka comes off with more of an air of being a good person. She's a nicer person. She's good overall. And so when shit starts to hit the fan, unlike with dub Ruka, who feels like it's breaking under the pressure of, oh shit, I really can't play with the big boys. This isn't my game. I'm not up to this. Oh my god, I'm breaking. Japanese Ruka, it's sort of like she doesn't break. It's like she never broke. Or she was always broken secretly. It starts to reveal her true colors, and that she puts off this air of being a really nice, sweet girl, but deep down she was always kind of gross, and it just needed an incident like this for her grossness to come up to the fold. That's what the impression I got from Japanese Ruka, is that she was always kind of nasty. It just never, a situation like this never really arose for it to come out. Now, I guess I haven't really said which I think is better. I think they're both fine. I think it really depends on where the character was going. And the answer is the character wasn't going anywhere. It was just cut off abruptly and they were all filler. But depending on where the character would have gone, if she would have been redeemed or if she would have went further into despair, that, I guess, colors whether or not I think dub or Japanese is better. Ultimately, they both just end up dying abruptly. And for that, I think Japanese is a bit better. I think that served a bit more... It felt more like a full role than dub, where I felt like definitely more should have been done with the character. In Japanese, I still think more could have been done and sort of should have been done, but it feels a bit more like a fuller than the dub one. I don't think either take is necessarily better than the other. I think they're both fine. I guess it's a tie in a way, but they're both fascinating characters to me. And I wanted the anime to do more with them, and it didn't, and I think that is a damn shame. She's obviously not a nice person by any means, but that's part of what makes her fascinating. She's a really fucked up, twisted individual, and fucked up, twisted individuals is what makes killing games like this generally It puts so much fun in them because, following just all the normal, ordinary characters is boring. That's why I like Nagito so much. Oh, he's fucked up. That's fun. It's great. And, I was kind of starting to like Ruka because of that. She's not the same kind of fucked up, but she's fucked up in a different, new, unique way. And they kind of just dropped her. They sort of dropped Nagito similarly in Danganronpa 2, but at least he was around for a lot longer. So yeah, Ruka, she is interesting, and I wish they did more with her, both dub or Japanese. They're both interesting, and they both felt abandoned. If I had to prefer one over the other, honestly, it depends on the line. It depends on the read. Certain lines I like Japanese more. Certain lines I like the dub more. And so that's all I have to really say about that. Damn shame either way. I should have continued that character arc or arcs because they definitely felt like different people. That's the impression I got. And I think it's fine. I think they both pulled off their respective arcs, abruptly ended arcs well. Okay, that's the end of Ruka. What else do we have to talk about? We got Hajime way down there, and the rest, Munakata's team. I want to save Munakata probably for last. I have the most to say about him, I think. Let's talk about Makoto then. I have a decent amount to say Makoto as well. So, I do think the Japanese Makoto is a bit better than the English Makoto. I started with Japanese Makoto when I started the series, way back when. I started in Japanese with English subtitles, and I thought one of my favorite things about going through the series was Makoto and just enjoying the performance so much. I think Japanese Makoto is so good. And then when I got to the English, as a whole, I do think the game, wasn't dubbed the best, but Makoto as well, I really thought was a miss. Like, it was not very good. And then when we got to Danganronpa 2, I think he did really good as Nagito, but I still thought as Makoto, he wasn't that good. Especially when compared to Nagito, who we'd been hearing for so much of the game. We heard Makoto again, he just sounded like lame by comparison. However, I think Bryce has gotten a lot better over the series. That was one of the ones I was slightly worried about going into this, because I didn't think Bryce was that good as Makoto. He was really good as Nagito, not that good as Makoto, but I think he's gotten a lot better. He I don't know if some of it was direction too, or if it was just him getting more used to the role, but he's really good in this. I like Bryce's performance a lot. Not as much as the Japanese. I still like the Japanese more, but he got a lot better for this, and I think he even improved over the course of the anime itself. And also some of this is just certain script changes towards the end of the anime. I really, really like that favor that Makoto is speaking, and Bryce does those really well. And so I even started to doubt myself, being like, wait, do I like just Bryce more at this point? And I'm like, no, it's just script changes. I do like Japanese more, but there's just really good script changes that favor dub Makoto. But so Bryce got really good. He got really, really good at Makoto, I'd say. And maybe it's just also direction, script changes that help that. But I do like Japanese a bit more. And I do think, this is another case of, I think, Japanese and English are playing the character of Makoto a bit differently. Part of it comes down to Japanese Makoto is more confident, and English Makoto is a little bit more of a wuss. And where I think that comes from is it feels like Japanese Makoto, he believes he is the hope. Like, I am the hope. When he beat Junko back in Danganronpa 1, during Danganronpa 1, a lot of that, Japanese Makoto was very unsure of himself. But when he faced Junko, he really got the stride in his step. He really became hopeful. He embodied the hope. And I feel like he started to really believe in himself during that part. And I think he's kept believing in himself. And while he does falter occasionally in the anime, and almost gets, really down on the dumps in himself, before Kyoko pulls him back up from beyond the grave, except not, he's still really confident throughout most of this. Whereas English Makoto is more just still a normal guy, if that makes sense. Like, the Junko thing was kind of a rush of adrenaline, and he hoped through it as much as he could and believed in it, even though he was still frightened like crazy. And after that, you know, the adrenaline kind of wore off, and he went back to just being a normal guy who he doesn't really think he's worth this Hope title. And you can tell, especially early on, they start to even out a bit later on, but early on, um, English Makoto is a lot more of a scaredy cat, and he's just not ready for this. Like, everybody put him on a pedestal and called him Ultimate Hope, but English Makoto, he ain't no fucking Ultimate Hope. That was a fluke. Um, and and so when he ends up having to confront Munakata in this, it's similar to the thing with Junko. Like, yeah, I'm still a regular guy. Yeah, I'm still just I don't know if I'm worthy of this ultimate hope. But Kyoko believes I should be. Kyoko believed in me. She said, you know, because of that speech or whatever. So he really during the confrontation with Munakata, it wasn't quite an adrenaline rush though. Unlike with Junko, where I feel it was really just adrenaline pulling him through, he really calmed down, took a step back, and was like, okay, I have to be this ultimate hope even if I don't think I am. And from there, I think, really, whereas Japanese Makoto sort of already came into his own back in his fight against Junko, I think English Makoto sort of came into his own in the fight against Munakata. And from there, he was really ready to be ultimate hope. Whereas Japanese Makoto sort of was ready for a long time. And do I think either take is necessarily better? I think if done better, I may have preferred English Makoto, and there are certain points where I do like the English, how it's done better with English, but and partially maybe because of how he's playing the character. But overall, I do like Japanese more. I just, you know, like the sound of the voice, like some of the reads a lot more. Again, Bryce has gotten a lot better, but I do think Japanese is a bit better. And potentially English Makoto is more interesting from a character arc standpoint, but you don't necessarily need a character doesn't necessarily need a character arc in every single, you know, show they're in or whatever. As long as they can react well, and I think Japanese Makoto definitely reacts well, and he does have some epiphanies, even if he's not necessarily growing as much as English Makoto is. So, that's Makoto. I guess we'll talk about Nagito right away afterwards, huh? As I said, I really, really like English Nagito. I think Bryce has always done a great job as English Nagito, better than he does as Makoto, I'd say. And on the flip side of things, I'm not a huge fan of Japanese Nagito. I know it's the same person who plays Makoto. I think Bryce is better at playing the split of between Nagito and Makoto. At least now he is. I used to think Bryce wasn't that good at Makoto and was just really good at Nagito. Now I think he's gotten better at Makoto and is still really good at Nagito. Whereas, I don't know, I mean, Japanese Nagito is okay. He's fine. But I like English a lot more. Also, some script changes favor English Nagito, I'd say. But, especially there's this one script change. I don't think I wrote it down. But as they find the secret entrance, Chiaki and Nagito do to, you know, in Japanese, it's just like, in English, Chiaki's like, did you know this was here? And in Japanese, Nagito's like, no, it was just luck, chance, pure chance, or whatever. And in English, though, it's such a funnier line and such a good read where he's just like, and I remember really laughing at this. It was like, no, it was just luck. That's my thing, or something. It was like, that's my thing. And like the way he said that's my thing was so good. And I was like, ah. Versus in Japanese where it's just like, luck, chance, luck, or whatever. And he just said that over and over. And I'm like, it's not as interesting. But yeah, I like Japanese Nagito a lot more. I'd say I like Japanese Nagito more than I like Japanese Makoto more than English. Sorry, I like English Nagito more than Japanese Nagito more than I like English Makoto more than Japanese Makoto now. Whereas, you know, if we were good to go back to Danganronpa 1 and 2, it would have probably been a closer comparison or even favored the Japanese, but now it favors the English. Anyways, move on to Kyoko. So, Kyoko is, how should I put this? In Japanese, I really like her in Japanese. I remember really liking her in Japanese, and I didn't think the dub, like a lot of them, was a very good trade-off. Now, you know, I got used to it after a while, I guess, and she was okay in Danganronpa 2, I guess. And the anime dub voice for Kyoko is... Do I like it better than the game dub voice? I think so. I mean... It's not a big difference, I don't think. I think she does fine. The anime dub voice actor for Kyoko does fine. Do I prefer it over the game dub voice? Maybe, by a bit. I don't know. Hard to say. But compared to Japanese, I like Japanese more. It's just, I like Japanese more. There's not much else. I mean, it does feel like, like, like they're playing. Japanese Kyoko is subtler. I think that's a big thing. English Kyoko is more like she doesn't say stuff a lot, but when she does say stuff, she's more blunt. Whereas Japanese Kyoko is more reserved, and I mean English Kyoko is reserved, but she doesn't have the same nuance, and yeah, there's not the same nuance when she speaks, and I don't know. It's hard to put into words. I like Japanese Kyoko better. I don't think English Kyoko's bad. I think she's great. I think she's fine. I think she's good. She's not fine. She's good. She's at least good. Even great at times. But Japanese Kyoko, I'd say, is great pretty much throughout. She was one of my favorite voices and probably my favorite character originally in Danganronpa, not counting Monokuma, of course, in large part due to such good voice work. And it doesn't really disappoint here either. The thing that's disappointing is that she just disappears for a lot of the show. For the last, third quarter or whatever. And she doesn't really do much in the first big part of the show either, so that's the thing that's kind of a shame. Other than that, I guess one thing I will comment on is the last line in the entire anime. It's not really a script change. I mean, there's probably a slight script change there, if I remember right, but I do think the English actor is way better at bringing the sexy for that last line, like, they're waiting for you, principal, or whatever. Like, when the Japanese said it, I didn't get as much of a hard boner. Whereas when the English says it, I've listened to it a couple times now, and it definitely gets me harder. I think English Kyoko, for that last line of the anime that she has, when she's suddenly alive, they're waiting for you. She really plays up the sexy, and I like it in English. I enjoy the sexy. In Japanese, I don't think it's quite sexy. I think overall, maybe, I don't know if I'd say overall if English Kyoko is the sexier. Maybe, a bit. But I still think Japanese Kyoko overall gives better performances throughout. So, that's Kyoko. So, I guess before we get to Munakata and Juzo, let's talk about Hajime and Izuru. This is another one of the big winners for the dub. In fact, oh my gosh, I don't know if this is the first time I'm ever hearing Japanese Hajime. And the actor's good. The actor is good at acting Hajime. But I think English Hajime is just, the dub voice is, the Bosch, is a much better fit for the character. For Hajime, but especially for Izuru. I think Bosch pulls off the, I'm an evil guy who's evil. And, also, Makasawa-san, when Bosch isn't around, pulls it off pretty well, too. Whereas, Japanese, it's such a higher-pitched voice, and, I don't know, it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me, because he's, like, trying to be cool and emo, but it's like, dude, you sound like you're 5 years old. Okay, not to that extent, but, like, I mean, English Hajime and Izuru especially sounds, I'm deep and ominous, and yeah, you don't want to fuck with me, bitch. And then Japanese is like, you don't want to fuck with me, bitch. And I'm like, are you sure? And then he'll, like, kick your ass or whatever, so then you'll be like, yeah, I probably shouldn't fuck with you. But he doesn't sound very intimidating. I don't know if maybe I went through all of Danganronpa 2 if it would give me a better experience, but I'm not even sure if it would, because you don't get much Izuru. You never get much Izuru. But even ignoring that, I just think, also, I think it's good for Hajime to be deep, because it complements Makoto better. As the two protagonists, I think, Makoto sort of being, higher pitched and happier-go-luckier-ish, and Japanese being lower pitched and a bit more somber, really works well. And in Japanese, it doesn't really happen. They're both kind of higher pitched, and I think the contrast between the two isn't really nearly as good in Japanese because of that. And even aside from that, I just enjoy Bosch a bit more than the Japanese actor. A good bit more, I'd even say. I don't think the Japanese actor's bad. I just don't think it's fitting for the role. I don't think it contrasts well with Makoto, and I think Izuru I prefer a lot more in English over Japanese. So I really tried to give Japanese Hajime a chance. When I first heard it, I'm like, oh my god, this is terrible. You're not Bosch. Who are you? I mean, I know it couldn't have been Bosch, but Solusa, Japan. Solusa and Bosch are both Japanese, though, aren't they? I don't know if they speak in Japanese or if they were born in America or not. I haven't looked that up, but anyways, though, yeah, I think the Japanese Hajime, I'm not really a fan. I like the dub a lot more. I gave it a chance. I really tried. And then once Izuru showed up, I'm like, okay, no, this doesn't work. I mean, I was already unsure with Hajime. This definitely doesn't work with Izuru. Anyways, that's my opinion anyways. Maybe if I started with the Japanese, I'd feel differently, but I didn't. I started with the dub, and it just seems a lot better. So, that's Hajime done. What else? Who else? All we have left is good old Munakata and Juzo. Who should I talk about first? I guess we'll leave the best for last and just talk about Juzo first. So Juzo's kind of an interesting one. This is interesting. Where do I start when talking about Juzo? English and Japanese are sort of doing different takes. Sort of. In that English sounds more like your traditional jerk, whereas Japanese is more of a passive-aggressive jerk. He's more of a sarcastic, more of a dry... No, English is still definitely sarcastic, but it's blunt sarcasm, whereas Japanese is more of a dry sarcasm. And I think throughout, overall, I like Japanese more. I think English is really good if the idea is to hate him and hate his guts. I think English is better at getting you to hate his guts. English is really good at getting you to hate his guts. And I think Japanese isn't quite as good at getting you to hate his guts. So, depending on whether or not you value goodness at getting to hate his guts, maybe you're supposed to hate his guts, in which case English did a really good job at that. He sounded like a really unlikable person, whereas Japanese wasn't quite as unlikable, I'd say. And I do think overall the actor just does better. But, again, they're different takes on the character. The Japanese one's more dry sarcasm, whereas the English one is more just blunt. And I'm the traditional big guy who's going to kick your ass. Whereas the Japanese one is more subdued. And I also think the crush on Munakata came through more in the Japanese version. I mean, it wasn't like it wasn't there at all in the English version, but it was... You could notice some more subtleties if you paid attention in the Japanese version, whereas the English version, I guess he was just even more of a in the closet in the English version. Better at being in the closet. Yeah. I also wrote down something here. I think it might be on the other side of the page. I might just wait till I get to the script changes. I'll just wait till I get to the script changes. Something that's to do with Juzo later on. Other than that, as for Juzo as a whole, I think that's all I have to say. As for which is better, I already said, I don't know, it depends. On Tuesday I like the dub better, but if it's Thursday or Friday, you just better give me that Japanese. Also, his contrast with Munakata is kind of important, I'd say. I think both the dub Munakata Juzo team and the Japanese Munakata Juzo team work, but it's like they only work because they're with each other. Like, if dub Munakata was with Japanese Juzo, I don't think that would work as well. Or if Japanese Munakata was paired with dub Juzo, I think that would work a bit better than the other one. But it's still, I think Munakata wouldn't like Juzo as much I don't think Japanese Munakata would like English Juzo as much. I think he'd want to be even quicker to kill him and say, like, I don't want you, you're not my friend. That's just the feeling I have, because I have a lot to say about Munakata, of course. Probably the most. But, yeah, I do think, and also similarly, I think the contrast between English Makoto and English Makoto and English Munakata versus Japanese Makoto and Japanese Munakata, which I'll talk a little bit more once I start talking about Munakata. Also, I think it really only works if you put English Makoto up against Japanese Munakata. English Makoto would have pissed himself even more than he did. He would have like, nah, couldn't even. Whereas I think Japanese Makoto wouldn't have been as afraid as he was if he was only dealing with English Munakata, because I think Japanese Makoto and Japanese Munakata are both on a higher level in terms of confidence, which I'll get to, I guess, a bit more when I start talking about Munakata, which I guess I'm just about to. But I think in both cases, both with the Munakata Juzo and Munakata Makoto, like if you were to swap pairings, it would be a very different experience and probably a lesser one. But because, they shifted in such a way from Japanese to dub, it sort of maintains the goodness while still sort of changing. It's like the same level of, by being different levels, but all being different levels, it's the same level of Undertale? I think I lost myself. The point is, Juzo, I like Japanese more overall, but there's definitely some qualities to like about English that not about Japanese. And also, if you're looking for him to be unlikable, if that's the point, then I think dub does that better. Not entirely sure if that's the point. That might be the point, because maybe that's the whole point, and then when he actually sort of redeems himself at the end, it's a bigger deal if you hated him more. Or maybe if you hated him less, it's easier to like him more. Hard to say. I also have some stuff to say about some of the scripting in episode 11, but I'll get to that when I get to the script. So let's just talk about Munakata, because I already talked a bit about it. So I guess I'll just open the door and not be ambiguous at all. I like the dub more. In fact, this was one of my favorite things about the anime is Munakata, just as a whole. And one of the things that has to do with that is his dub actor is so good. And I was fearing that when I got to the Japanese, I would be let down by whatever Japanese Munakata had to offer. I was pleasantly surprised. I like Japanese whether it's English or Japanese, Munakata is just one of the best things of the show. Japanese Munakata is really good. I really like him. I don't like him as much as English Munakata. I don't know if that's biased because I saw English first or whatever, but I do like English more overall. But Japanese is still really good. And what's more important is that, yes, Japanese and English are doing different takes on the character. And it feels more like, whereas Japanese Munakata is more of like, I am the Terminator, I will kill you, you piece of shit. English Munakata is, because Japanese is a lot more of, I am Terminator. English is more of, he's a suave man. He's very charismatic. Japanese isn't nearly as charismatic. He's smart, but he's more of just the brawn, but he's smart brawn, but he's not very charismatic. Whereas English Munakata, he's got some charm to him. He's willing to, and he's also more of a jokester even. He's more jovial, more sarcastic at times. And he's just generally more of a people person, I'd say, in English Munakata. And so even though he can duke it out and he can be a fighter, he maybe is more used to being a lover than a fighter. And when thrust into this situation and Chisa dies immediately, he really snaps and starts to, go crazy a bit. Whereas Japanese Munakata snaps, but in a different way. It's almost like he doesn't snap. Like, it's like he should snap, but the snap is delayed because Chisa's already brainwashed him so much, sort of subtle brainwashing, that he's kind of crazy hope that it's like Chisa's death barely even phased him, sort of, and it didn't really hit him until later, and he started just, went more and more desperified, if you want to use it that way. But yeah, Japanese Munakata is really more of a Terminator type character who stops at nothing to just, I will kill you, I will crush you, I do not laugh, I do not sarcasm, I don't do any of those things, don't try to throw your emotions at me, I will just kill your ass. Whereas English Munakata is more jovial and is really pissed at this situation and the fact that Chisa died and is very much lashing out and less of a Terminator and more of a, I don't know who did this, but I'm going to figure it out, I'm going to fucking kill their fucking ass. And, it's less of an idealistic, he's trying to believe in the idealistic approach of it being hope, but it's more about just berserkness out of revenge, whereas I feel the Japanese one really does believe more in his crazy ideals. They're crazy, but he believes more in them, I'd say. Similar to English, where I think Makoto believes more himself as... similar to Makoto, where I think Japanese, he believes more himself as the hope, whereas the English one, he's like, I guess I have to be the hope. And anyways, as it goes on, English Munakata, he just breaks more and more and more and just lashes out more and more and more, whereas Japanese Munakata just stays reserved the whole time until the one tipping point, and I was waiting for when it was going to happen. I knew eventually he had to just lose his shit, and it was later than I thought it would be. But Japanese Munakata eventually does just break down completely, and it's kind of beautiful in a way that you really can't get from the English Munakata performance. But when he does finally drop the whole, calm and composed the entire time. But I think English Munakata still, I like him more overall with the suaveness, and I like the sound of his voice, and I do think he gives some better performances. Some of it has to do with script changes. I just really like the character of Dub Munakata. Like, similar to Junko, not on Junko's level, but they did make an ambitious choice in the dub, I think. Sort of. Because the Dub Munakata is decently different from Japanese, and I like that they didn't just try to copy the monotone of the Jap, because it's hard to do monotone. I don't know if I want to call it monotone, but the cold, very calm. I guess monotone is sort of correct. I don't know. There might be a better word for that, but it's hard to do that well. I think Japanese does it very well, but I can definitely see why they went for a different approach. I can respect them for it, and I think they did it really well. I really like the charismatic Munakata we got in the dub. I like him a lot. More than the Japanese version. I'm surprised at how much I ended up liking the Japanese version, but the Japanese is pretty darn good too. Munakata is just great. He's just great. Have we talked about how great he is? Munakata husbando. Slightly less crazy hope than Nagito. Confirmed. Okay. I think that's pretty much all we have to talk about in terms of characters. I mean, I could probably talk a bit more about Munakata if I want, but I think you got the gist of what I had to say. They're both great, but I like Dub a bit more. So now all we have is script changes. These should go by somewhat quickly because it's more about just listing them off, and there's not much to say about some of them. There's stuff to say about them, but let's see here. I have one more on this page, and that's okay. So the Jurassic shit line. In Danganronpa episode 1, Despair Arc, when Chisa is hunting down everyone and she finds Nekomaru, I remember thinking in the dub when Chisa was like, "Oh my god, Jurassic Park!" I'm like, that seems random. Now it ended up working out well because then Nekomaru was like, "More like Jurassic shit!" and it was super cool, and I really enjoyed the line. But I assumed it was a dub change. But then I got to the Japanese version, and I mean, there was a bit of a line change there, but not what you would think. Jesus still said Jurassic Park, and I still think that's really weird. What? Jurassic Park? What? But okay, so I remember like somebody made a comment about how, the dub isn't very good or whatever, and I was like, well, I don't know about the script changes, but I do know that I like the dub overall. Even though I can think of a few cringy dub things that possibly are dub only. And the Jurassic Park one was one that I thought was a dub only thing. And no, that was still there in Japanese. So there's another cringy line that I thought was dub only that's also there in Japanese. So it's like, well, there you go. It's even better of a dub than I thought. Anyways, yeah. The Jurassic Park thing was still there, but then what Nekomaru said afterwards didn't really compliment what Chisa was saying, at least not as far as I could tell, not with just the subtitles. Maybe if I understood Japanese it would have, but I don't remember exactly what he said in Japanese, but he just said, it's a big one, or I don't know exactly, but it was only in English that he said, instead of Jurassic Park, more like Jurassic shit, and I think I really like that a lot. If you're gonna go with the Jurassic Park thing, have it be Jurassic shit. In Japanese, it wasn't Jurassic shit, it was just, have a big shit, or something. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, better in dub because of that. That's that line. That's that page done. Now I have a whole page of these left because I had a couple written down on my first page. Anyways, I have 2.5 pages of this stuff. So, mention that I prefer Ibuki and Chisa's initial face-off in English. Yes. Okay, that's right. So when Chisa first finds Ibuki, as I said, I like that Ibuki's indecipherable. But in English, what I really like is that Ibuki's all like, let's stick it to the man. And Chisa kind of compliments that by being like, by attending class. And it's sort of like, oh yeah, they respect each other because of this. So then Ibuki follows him. But in Japanese, I don't think it really works as well because oh, what was the line? I don't remember exactly. It's not as memorable in my opinion, but it was something like shoot. Ibuki said something, and then like Chisa finished what she was saying. Oh, it was like Ibuki was like, "No something," and then Chisa's like, "No problem," as if Ibuki knew that Chisa was gonna finish her line. Even though the impression I got in the dub was that Chisa finished her line, but Ibuki, what she said was stand alone. She was, trying to stick it to the man by being standalone. And Chisa finished the line when Ibuki didn't expect it, and that's what led Ibuki to respect Chisa so much, I felt. Whereas in the Japanese, it's like Ibuki knew Chisa was going to finish her line. I get it's just a gag, but as far as making the gag at least kind of serious, at least, not have to make you suspend your disbelief, not have to suspend your serious disbelief just for a gag, I think the dub was better at that. It was still a good gag, but it made more sense, I'd say. So yeah, point to the dub for that. You can go and listen to it if you want to know the exact wording. I don't remember exactly, but yeah. Basically, it comes down to Ibuki predicted what Chisa would say in Japanese, and in English, there was no such implication of a prediction. Alright. Mention that I prefer Juzo's mentioning of Junko in English. Okay. Oh, yeah. In the Japanese, Juzo was like, you used your words. He was talking to Makoto. This is shortly after I think the game started or something. Or was it before the game started? I don't remember exactly. I think it was I think it was after the killing game started. But basically, Juzo was like, in English, he was like, I'm not as stupid to fool as Junko and Oshima. And I was thinking, what? Junko's not stupid to fool. Are you kidding me? And then Asahina gets really pissed at that, which rightly so, because Junko's not easy to fool. So I like that a lot in English because it gets them, confrontational. In Japanese, though, what Juzo said, I don't think really should have triggered Hina like that. Because Juzo was just like, you're really good at using your words. You even use those words to beat Junko. Basically, what she was saying is that, we shouldn't really be paying attention to your words because they could be very good trickery. You use them to trick Junko, so we're not going to deal with your words. If anything, that's complimenting Makoto. It's saying that he's kind of afraid of Makoto and his words. In English, he was just being like, yeah, you're a little shit. We don't have to be afraid of you. And so it makes a lot more sense, I think, for Hina to be triggered in English than it does in Japanese. And I feel like the idea is for them to be confrontational there. So I think English works better in that sense. Better to piss all over Makoto's parade than to compliment him, I think, there. Either way, they were still, they wanted to confront Makoto, but the English one did it in a way that raised the stakes more, whereas the Japanese one, the stakes were still raised, but it didn't feel right. It was like, why are these stakes raised? So I think that's a good choice on the English part. Next up, we got... I prefer Munakata's speech at the end of episode 3, Future Arc, in the dub. Okay. This is kind of complicated, but what it comes down to is... I feel like in the dub at the end of episode 3, there's a lot more back and forth there. With Makoto trying to convince Munakata, and Munakata even says at one point, your words are actually somewhat convincing. Even now I'm tempted, but I'm not going to give in to the temptation. I believe in what I'm doing or whatever. Which comes back to him, I guess, not being as confident as his Japanese self, but a lot of what the Japanese version comes down to is Makoto being like, believe me, we have to try, and the Japanese version like, no. The Japanese one is just like, no, he doesn't even want to have any of Makoto's bullshit. It's like there's not even a dialogue. I really liked the morality clash in English, and I really liked that Munakata was willing to give Makoto the time of day. But in Japanese, there was just none of that. It was Makoto being like, let's try, and Munakata being like, nope, I don't believe you, I'm just going to kill you. Which fits more into his Terminator mindset, but it makes for a lot less of an interesting confrontation because it's like a brick wall against a brick wall instead of English where it feels more back and forth. I got a much more back and forth vibe. So yeah, I think Munakata and Makoto, their dynamic in Japanese works, but I think it wasn't played off as well, at least in that confrontational bit at the end of episode 3. So, that's that. Next. When Yoi has the door jammed, Izayoi, in episode 4 of Future, and there's... and there, they apostrophe re, is apostrophe the right, I don't know, and they're talking about who betrayed who, by which I mean Izayoi and Ruka and Kimura are all talking about who betrayed who. I prefer the wording Izayoi uses in the dub. Now, what I mean by this is, in the Japanese version, Kimura's like, "You betrayed me, you fucking fucker," and in the Japanese version, when Kimura says that, he's always like, "No, you betrayed me," and that's a lot more childish. And I think that Izaya is more mature than that, which is the feeling. I mean, you get a mature feeling from him overall, but what he says in the dub also makes him sound more mature as a person. In the dub, he actually respects what Kimura is saying somewhat. Because when Kimura says, "You betrayed me," Izayai then retorts by being like, I think in that incident, we actually got more flack. Talking about the incident, in episode 4 of Despair. I think it's fair to say we got the brunt of it. So he's respecting what Kimura is saying. He's saying, yes, you did get some flack, but we got the worst of it. Let's be fair. He wasn't just immediately going, "No, you suck," which is a lot more childish, I think, and I like the maturity that Izaya has in the relationship. He's kind of like the most mature of the three, I would say, in that petty squabble. But that did not come off that way in the Japanese. So point to the dub there. If we're keeping points, I don't know. It's just about preference. Like, when you make a change like this, some people are going to be mad you're making any change. But I saw the dub first, so all I can do is compare the lines and say which I think works better. And I think the dub line works better there. Anyways, I like that in Japanese... here's a point to the Japanese. I like that in Japanese, Nagito just flat out says he's constipated in episode 4 of Despair, and continues to be blunt in his next interaction with Kimura. I really like it. So to be more in depth, in the dub, this actually happens a lot. It happens with Teru, it happens with Nagito. Anytime somebody tries to be overt, come out and just say, "I'm gonna whip my penis out," or Nagito being like, "I'm constipated." In the dub, they try to be sneaky and stealthy about it, like they're scared of saying the word penis or something. I don't think they really need to be. I mean, this isn't a thing for kids. This is, it's a mature show. I don't really mind if they talk about dicks and constipation. And so, yeah, that's something, I found that really funny. Like, not only did he flat out say it, but he said it so casually. When he was like, it's like, "I've just been so constipated lately, I could really use one of your jugs, Kimura." And then his next interaction with Kimura is like, "Yup, the poop stopped coming," or something. And I really laughed at that, when Nagito was saying that stuff. And, I guess Japanese Nagito does seem a bit blunter overall. And I think in general, I like that English Nagito is a bit more, a bit more subtle in some of his words. But for that stuff, I don't know. Even if I do like the subtle approach overall with English Nagito, I just like it when he's fucking talking about constipation. Don't pussyfoot around the issue, because when you pussyfoot around the issue, you might not even understand. Because, I mean, I don't know. I sort of understood what they were talking about in English. I did, but it took a while for me to be like, "Wait, what? Oh, he's saying he's constipated. Gotcha." Whereas in the Japanese, they just flat out say it, and that makes it easier for everyone who's busy theorizing and thinking about theories and doesn't have time to decode your message about poop. So yeah, point to the Japanese there. I like both Teru and Nagito. I like when they're just open and honest about, "I have a dick and I have constipation." Dub tries to pussyfoot around it, and I'm like, no, just be brave. Just say you have a dick. What? Say you have poop. Anyways, here's another point to the Japanese. This is the end of episode 1 of Despair Arc. I like that Kyoko calls back to Chisa's rotten orange speech, because, Chisa's like, "You're all rotten oranges." And yeah, so there's a point later on in episode 1 of Despair where Kyoko insults Mikon. And, as she does, she insults Mikon all the time. And in the Japanese version, she calls Mikon a rotten orange. I like that a lot. I was like, oh, that's really clever. They didn't do that in the dub, did they? I went back and listened to the dub because I didn't remember very well. And no, she doesn't call Mikon a rotten orange in the dub, which I think is a shame. I really like the callback to Chisa's rotten orange speech. Shame they took that out. Something else that was kind of dumb is that Mikon also says something really stupid in the dub here. Unlike with Mahiro, I don't think this is a common occurrence, but Mikon does say something really stupid in the dub here that is a lot less stupid in the Japanese, because in the dub, Kyoko, after she says like whatever insult, it's like my legs are gonna fall off or whatever. But that's not the insult. The insult comes after what Mikon says actually, and then in the dub, Mikon's like, they can do that? Oh my, just from walking around? And I'm like, come on, Mikon, you're the doctor. You know they can't actually do that. And I remember thinking that was kind of silly at the time. I kind of glossed over it because it was just a throwaway gag. But in this case, it was the Japanese who took the gag more serious, I guess. Because in the Japanese, I don't remember exactly what Hyoko was saying. Basically, she was saying she was pooped. And then the Japanese Mikon was like, oh my gosh, I have to check you out right now. This could be something serious. Let me check you out. Which makes a lot more sense. She's worried about Kyoko. She can't, she doesn't realize that Kyoko is maybe being a bit sarcastic. And isn't actually in need of any serious aid, and she's just being, kind of pouty, she's flaring up her hurtiness. She's not that hurt. But the Japanese Mikon's dense, both Mikons are dense, so it's not surprised the Japanese Mikon's like, let me check you out, it could be this or this. And then Japanese Hyoko's just like, stay away from me, rotten orange. Whereas in the dub, Mikon's just like, oh my gosh, they can do that from your legs can because like Kyoko's like, my legs are about to fall off, and the dub Mikon's like, they can do that just for walking around. And I'm like, no, that's a stupid line. What are you doing, dub? That's not realistic at all. The Japanese actually had something realistic, and you farked it up, which they do occasionally, but more often than not, I think their dub changes are in the right direction. But that's one where that's a double dose. Both the rotten orange thing and Mikon saying something stupid in the dub, I think is a double point to Japanese, I guess. Anyways. I feel, I mentioned this in a comment on one of the videos actually, I feel that Junko's speech to Izuru, when she was convincing him to join the dark side of the Force, was more convincing in English, but gave off more of an impression that that's how Junko really felt in Japanese. And there's really nothing else to say about that. Depends on what they were going for. Because I do think some of those things that Junko was saying were more convincing to someone like Izuru, but it didn't come off as much like that's what Junko actually believed. Whereas in Japanese, it was less convincing, but it felt more like she was opening her heart actually up to Izuru. That's what she actually felt, and she felt Izuru was, on the same wavelength as her, so would just agree with her. Even though I don't think she did quite as good a job as convincing Izuru as dub Junko would have. But yeah, so it depends on what they're going for and what you think is more important, but that's this double sense that I got. Anyways, I prefer the handling of the title, A Despairfully Fateful Encounter, in English. Okay, so in Japanese, Junko says that her encounter with Izuru, it's a despairful encounter. And then when she runs into Mitarai, it's like, it's another despairful encounter. What? I like it in the dub better, because in the dub, she does not refer to her meeting with Izuru as a despairful encounter. She refers to her meeting with Mitarai only as, it's a despairful encounter. And it has more oomph because it's the first time she's saying it's a despairful encounter, for one thing. But secondly, and because that's when the title shows up at the end of each episode is when you see the title. But secondly, that's the bullshit one. The thing with Mitarai is the bullshit one, because there's no way Junko could have known that, Mitarai was going to help her with disparifying the world, but somehow she just pulls him up to her, and she's like, you're going to have a talent that helps me, basically. And that makes more sense with the bullshit, despair-inducing meeting or whatever, despairful encounter. Whereas in the Japanese, trying to play it up like it's on the same level as the Izuru thing, I don't think so. Because you knew about the Izuru thing. You went out of your way for the Izuru thing. So that's just a little thing where I like how they put more emphasis on the Mitarai meeting being the despairful-inducing meeting as far as, because the title of that episode where she meets Izuru and Mitarai is a despairfully fateful encounter. So I prefer the handling of that in English for what that's worth. I really like the delivery in okay, here's the Monica stuff. This is when the Monica stuff starts, guys. I really like the delivery in Japanese when Monica was explaining her ketchup prank. Right, so, actually, this is a point to the Japanese. I didn't expect that. This is there's a few other points, but they're all points to the English. I do remember this now. Yeah, that's right. I don't think, this is actually what convinced me that, actually, this Japanese Monica is pretty darn good. She can be. I like the dub more, but as I said, I thought at first the Japanese. Did I say this? I thought at first the Japanese Monica wasn't very good. She grew on me after a while, and this was a big part of it. This line was that when she was explaining how she pranked Makoto and Asahina by spraying ketchup on Asahina. Um, I liked the way that like you could just even though I didn't necessarily understand what she was saying, I could read the words, of course, but what she was saying in Japanese, even if I had no words on the screen, I could tell she was such a jokester. The way she talked, it's hard to explain. You'd have to go back and listen to the line in Japanese and compare it to English. But I prefer her delivery when she's explaining how she pulled the prank on Asahina in Japanese. But again, this isn't really a script thing. This is a case of the Japanese, I think, just pulling it off a bit better. I think there was a slight script change, but it's so slight that it's like I don't think it really matters. So yeah, point to the Japanese there, I guess. But anyways, then here we have some more Monica stuff. Yeah, okay. There's actually only a couple points to Monica for English here, actually. There were more general script changes for Monica, but these are the two that stuck out to me as the most important. Generally, whenever they changed the script for Monica, I think it was, for the most part, favoring the dub. I think it was a good idea. It was more just polishing. Like I said, how there are some script changes that just kind of like polish, slight changes that, you know, improve the wording a bit. Like, I will kill you in the name of sweets or deliciousness. I kill you in the name of deliciousness. I keep saying sweets. It's deliciousness. Anyways, yeah. So, I prefer the wording of Monica admitting that she killed Gekko Gahara in English. So, what does that mean exactly? Toko said that, shoot, what did she say? She said, wait, you're not despair anymore, so you didn't kill Gakugohara? And then Monica's just like, Monica did. And Monica just, the admitting it flat out, like, was just like, Monica did. I don't know. It just seemed more basic than how they did it in English, where Toko, was just like, you're not into despair anymore, you're not part of despair anymore, but you killed Gakugohara. Whereas in Japanese, it was a question. So you didn't kill Gakugohara? And then Monica responded, oh, Monica did. But in English, it was like, no, it wasn't a question. Because Monica said something like, I haven't done anything, I haven't done anything bad recently. Yeah, that's what she said. She says she hasn't done anything bad recently. And then Toko's like, you haven't done anything bad, you killed Gakugohara. And then Monica was like, oh yeah, I meant recently. Or she said something like, aside from killing Gakugohara. I don't know. The way she said it, and also the wording of that, it had more oomph to me. Whereas in Japanese it was just like, oh yeah, Monica did, sorry about that. In English, she's being more sassy, more zazzy. Like, I haven't done anything bad recently. It's like, you killed Gakugohara. And it's like, oh yeah, aside from that, I haven't done anything bad recently. Like, that offhand comment, like, killing Gakugohara wasn't that big of a deal. It's an afterthought. And it kind of is because, you know, we don't really see Gakugohara at all, even in the Despair arc, which would have been nice to see real Gakugohara in the Despair arc, by the way. Never wrote that down, actually, but that's a point worth mentioning. You know, Bandai, Gozu, Gakugohara, they all would have been nice to see in Despair arc, which unfortunately we didn't. Okay, and then the other dub line I really like for Monica is I like Monica's trolling. This is a general point. That's right. I like Monica's trolling in English better about who from the first generation, who from the first game is gonna die. I like Monica's trolling just overall better. You know, when Toko's like, who is it? Who's gonna die? Like, the stuff she does. The standout thing to me was that in Japanese, Toko was like, tell us who it is. And then Monica sets up this fart machine, and in Japanese, she's just like, nope, I'm not gonna. And then Monica's gonna fart at you. Monica fart, or whatever. And that's such, like, I guess it's grade school level humor. I think there was more sophistication, though, in the dub. Which she said she was forced to become an adult because of Nagito, so I think the sophistication works better. I liked it a lot more because in English, Toko's like, okay, who's the attacker? Tell us, and what Monica says is like, okay, if you really want to know, and she says this as she's setting up the fart machine, And it's like, the attacker is, or the one who's gonna die is, and then she presses a button and the fart comes out. And I found that pretty darn funny. I thought that was really good trolling in the English part. And I think script changes like this are good. If you're just trying to make it funnier for an English-speaking language, maybe the Japanese found that funny. I think the English variant was funnier. There's also other stuff like Toko being like, I get it, you're still really part of despair, aren't you? And in the English, Monika's like, A for effort, but I'm not biting. Whereas in the Japanese, she's just like, I don't see it that way. And you see, after that, Toko really goes off the deep end. That's when I think she turns into a genocider. That's right. Toko's like, I see. You were saying you were part of despair, but that was actually a lie. And yeah, again, in Japanese, Monika's just like, I don't see it that way. And that sends Toko kind of crazy. Whereas I think, again, this is a case of, I think the dub have better wording for triggering people. Like, Juzo had better wording to trigger Hina, and I think Monika had better wording to trigger Toko, where Monika was like, A for effort, but I'm not biting. And I can see that kind of being better at getting Toko to go off the deep end. So just general trolling, I think. Monika's just generally has better scripting for trolling in the dub, and she pulls it off really well in the dub. I think the script favors her more, but I do think I just like the English Monika more. Anyways, okay. Here's another, it's not a big one, but it's a big one in a big fish, small pond. Oh. So remember how that redhead gave me nightmares? Remember in the Despair episode where they had the student council kill each other? The thing with the redhead pounding the shut, like killing the guy prematurely. When the guy and girl were gonna go out together, they were gonna kill each other, and it was gonna be beautiful or something. The redhead kills the guy, has him fall on top of the girl, and then shovels in like the sword like deeper into them, being like, and in English he's like, "You want together?" Because he just got off from talking to his, killing his beloved, because he really wanted to, I loved you, even though I don't think she knew. He hadn't brought up the guts to confess to her, I don't think. And then later on, when he gets to them, he's like, "You want together? I'll give you together!" And then shovels them together. And I thought that was so, like, oh, nightmare-inducing. I think that the Japanese variant isn't as nightmare-inducing. So, what did I write down exactly here? Because I've just been doing this off the cuff. The scene with the redhead that gave me nightmares, oh, I mentioned it, was done better in English. Oh, that's all I said. Oh, I guess I'll just talk a bit more. Here I was thinking, what did I actually write down? Nothing important. The other part that kind of matters is that in the English, like I said, as Junko is saying, like, despair is messy and it's full of grossness or whatever. Which overall I prefer the flair of English there as well. But I mean, Japanese does a fine job there. But there's always that extra English flair. But as she's speaking, in the background, we see Redhead kill the guy he has a crush on. And it's made very clear in English that he has a crush on this girl. In Japanese, though, they don't make this clear, at least on Crunchyroll, because Junko's talking as the song is going on. So it's displaying both of those subtitles, what the song subtitles are and what Junko's saying. But as the redhead kills this girl, we see him like freaking out about it, and he seems to be saying something, but there are no subtitles translating what he's saying. Which means if I had watched this first, I wouldn't realize that he had a crush on this girl. Which means then when he then goes up to kill these two, he would just seem like a big douchebag. I mean, he's already a big douchebag. But at least there's an understanding to why he's a big douchebag in the dub. In the Japanese, this comes out of nowhere. And also, he doesn't even say, "You want together? I'll give you together." He just says, "Shut up." Which is a lot more petty. Like, "You want together, I'll give you together" is a lot more despair-inducing. And, "shut up" is just so, like, it's so petty. Like, it seems less like he went off the deep end and more like he's just a huge douchebag. I don't know. I think the English one is just more juicy as far as filling you with despair. And I don't think it quite would have given me nightmares as much because knowing that he actually liked that girl and that's why he went to that extreme, knowing the bad guy's motive can sometimes make it worse. Because, like, in Japanese, it just seems to come out of nowhere what the redhead guy does. And there's shittier scripting, and so, I don't know. I think they did a much better job at traumatizing me in English than in Japanese, for what it's worth. Anyways, better traumatization. Point to the dub. What? Okay, I like that in the beginning of Future 8, Kizakura says that he enjoyed teaching more than the kids did in English. Yeah, because that's the thing. In Japanese, um, uh, this is a small thing, but as Kizakura was talking to the gym teacher, who shows up in an earlier episode, by the way, the one that dies at the beginning of episode 8 of Future, and Kizakura's flashback does show up in an earlier episode. I do remember that. I never pointed it out. I didn't notice as I was doing it, but I noticed as I was editing. She should have been like, what, episode 2 or something? I don't remember. But anyways, when Kizakura says, like, oh, I'm a terrible teacher, but I do love it, after he says that, the female gym teacher kind of giggles at him. And in Japanese, that doesn't really make sense because it's like, I'm a terrible teacher, but I still love doing it. I mean, it makes some sense, but it hits more in English because in English, Kizakura's like, I was reasonably terrible at teaching, but I still enjoyed it more than the kids did anyway. And then, she giggled at that. And that seems more like a funny line to giggle at than just, oh, I'm terrible, but I loved it. As opposed to in English when he added the, I loved it at least more than the kids did. And he was being more sarcastic about it. So I just really like the wording there on that. And I think it was good dub delivery as well. Because Kizakura dub is still really good, even if I did overall end up liking the Japanese more. So that's the point of the dub. I like the added line of more than the kids did. Because I think that, gives extra, bonding. It gives an extra bonding moment, because that's the kind of thing that teachers would bond over, is their kids. Teachers and parents would bond over their kids, and didn't even bring up the kids in the Japanese version. Anyways, next is, the scene where Kyoko is explaining the facility being underwater has a point for it and against it in Japanese. Right, okay. So, oh man, yeah, okay, how did this go again? Shoot, what was the point I was going to bring up? There were 2 points. I'm trying to remember. Shit. I'm going to circle back to this one. Okay, yeah, okay. I know what this next one means. I'm going to come back to that one. I might have to look some stuff up to remember what I was talking about. I actually don't remember. I like using nothing as a replacement for nani. This I remember. So in Japanese, what Munakata ends up saying when he's, really beating on Makoto after saying, like, in English he says, you know nothing. But in Japanese he says, what do you know? What? But that's just the subtitles. This is when he's punching Makoto's face in, by the way. When Munakata is punching Makoto's face in. But that's just the subtitles. What he's actually saying in Japanese is nani, or naniga or something. And so he's like, what do you know? Nani do blah blah, whatever else he's saying there. And then he goes, naniga. And I really like that they ended up translating that as nothing. And so they replaced naniga with nothing. And that really works, I think, for both, being similar sounding words. Because, if they tried to do, what do you know? What? It wouldn't have hit the same, I think, in English. So, I don't know, that's just a script change I noticed and was like, good job. That's not really a change. It's an adaptation to make it work for you. I like that a lot. Anyways, just thought I'd point that out. What else do I have here before I have to look up what the fuck I was talking about? I remember, but I don't remember exactly what I was talking about. Okay. I really like the wording used in the dub by Makoto in episode 10. Oh yeah, this is just a general point. In episode 10 of Future Arc, when Munakata and Makoto are having their face-off, some of the stuff he says got to me in English. It really got to me. And this is my favorite episode, by the way. Episode 10 of Future Arc is my favorite episode of Danganronpa 3. I ended up underappreciating it the first time because I was so busy thinking about how Kyoko was alive, but I've rewatched it a couple times. And oh my gosh, it's my favorite one, definitely. The confrontation between Makoto and Munakata, I love it. But I think I like it a lot more in English, I'd say. And a lot of that comes to scripting, I'd say. At least from what I can tell. Again, these might just be Crunchyroll subtitles, but hey, I'm just going out the subtitles. In English, what they're saying is a lot more bare, but especially with Makoto, because these are the points that started to trick me into thinking that I liked the dub Makoto better. Like, this is where it happened. And no, it comes down to script. But I do think Bryce is doing a great job, don't get me wrong, with the scripting. But it's like, he says stuff like, in Japanese, he's like, don't get rid of Chisa, don't get rid of Chisa, or whatever, when Munakata's like, I'm gonna burn the memory of Chisa to ash or whatever. In Japanese, is like, don't get rid of Chisa, which is so plain, but in English, he's like, don't talk about her like that. She was a person, she's not just a thing. And I like that a lot more. And then also another thing is that, also, like, when he's saying, where's hope? It's not even part of the equation. I like the wording a bit more there. But the big one, really, this is really important, is that when, during the naniga, during that scene where he's punching Makoto over and over, it's like, what do you know? And then in Japanese, he's like, I do know. And what he says in Japanese doesn't hit home with me as much as what he says in English. Because in Japanese, he just says, even if Kyoko goes to despair, whatever. By the way, this would have been a great time to bring up how Sayaka turned on him, so Makoto kind of does know what it's like for someone to go on, turn on him, even if it's not to the extent. Anyways, he brings up how even if Kyoko turned on him, even if he had to kill Kyoko, what the Japanese version said is, I would still be glad that I met her. And don't get me wrong, it's all well and good to be glad that you met her, but it doesn't hit home as much with me as the dub, where I would still be grateful for the person she was, which I think is more important than I would still be glad I met her. I could just be, I don't know, maybe poor subtitles, but I really like it. I really like it. It's like, because in English, you're basically getting, no matter how bad she got or the terrible things she did, it still doesn't take away from how good of a person she was and how much she affected my life before she went to despair. Because I wouldn't be the person I am now without her pre-desperified self. So no matter how bad she is, that doesn't take away from what she was before. But in Japanese, he just says, I'd still be glad that I met her. And that doesn't hit me as hard. That maybe that's just a small wording thing when he's just like, but it's just throughout the whole scene, really, is just small wording things, just favoring the dub by a lot, and adding up to be kind of really big, in my opinion. If I was watching the Japanese scene of Makoto vs. Munakata, I don't think I would have liked it as much. I'm not saying it's bad, but I don't think it's as good. And considering, like, that's might just be my favorite scene in the whole show, it's certainly my favorite episode, and a lot of it has to do with, their whole big fight. If only for that, I am glad that I watched the dub over the sub. So, there's that. And that's a big one. A lot of these script changes are minor and nitpicky. That, though, hits home with me. Anyways, alright, let's just get through the rest of these real quick. I think the wording of the scene when Juzo is having his breakdown in English gives the scene more oomph, though Juzo's Japanese actor still has really good delivery. Okay, yeah, this one I remember at least. I'm gonna have to go back and look up that fucking thing with Kyoko. So, in English, when Juzo was having his breakdown, basically after Makoto reveals to him that there was no attacker, it was just suicide. In English, I really like the actor does a really good job, and the scripting is a bit better, I think. But he says stuff like Kimura, Kizakura, all the terrible shit we've done to suss out the attacker, and it's been us, son of a bitch. And I think that scene is done a lot better in English. I will say, though, that when he slams the knife down, he says, damn it, apparently. Although, that's just the subtitle. I could really feel the emotion. In English, he seemed a lot more angry, which is fitting of English Juzo. And in Japanese, he was just sad. He was like, damn it! And the way he said it, it had a lot of... It was really well done, I could tell. Even though I didn't fully understand what he was saying, it was really well done. So that's why I had to throw that a little bit in there, that when he said damn it, specifically the line damn it, I could feel the emotion behind that line in Japanese. And in English, but specifically in Japanese, because in English I think the whole thing was given a bit better oomph by both the acting and the scripting. I guess it just comes down to, in English he was angrier, whereas in Japanese he was sadder, and I think the angrier came off better as far as his breakdown goes. At least that's the way I took it. And I think those are two of my favorite parts of the show, are like the Makoto Munakata confrontation and Juzo's redemption. I really like Juzo's redemption. And I think English handled both of those a bit better. But, yeah. Oh, yeah, and as far as Juzo's redemption goes, there's actually something else I wanted to talk about that I guess I didn't write down here. I guess I meant to talk about it when I was talking about his character, and I didn't. One thing that really cements the difference between their two characters, I'd say, the two different takes on the Juzo, the English and Japanese, is that when Juzo is, as Juzo's walking away and Makoto's like, hey, where are you going? Juzo says, I hate you because you defeated Junko or whatever. When he says that, so when Munakata told you to kill yourself, there's a big difference in what he says here between English and Japanese. In Japanese, he says, when Munakata told you to kill yourself, to be honest, I was happy. In English, he says, I thought it's about damn time. And that kind of really shows the big difference in that, the English one is more blunt and angrier, and the Japanese one is more subtle. I was happy at you killing yourself. Yes, that was a great thought. But I don't know. That's not really saying either is better or worse, just something I thought of. Although something I do think is better is the dub scene of Makoto attempting to kill himself. Or rather, before that. Him attempting to kill himself is done just fine in Japanese as well, arguably better. But the scene where he first starts seeing the suicide video and the rest of the class confronts him or whatever, and him reacting to that and just some of the stuff Kyoko and Sayaka says, I think is done overall better in English. Because it feels like, I don't know, it's hard to put into words. I think Bryce is so on point in the acting there. And that's the thing where there's not much, there's the term called like no mouth scene or no flap scene or whatever, where they really have freedom to script the way they want. And English Makoto is just a lot better going, no, I didn't, I mean, I couldn't, I wasn't, and it's some subtle stuff, but it's subtle changes, but they make it feel big. Like the suicide video, when I watched that in English, I really felt that, oh yeah, this may drive Makoto to kill himself. When I watched it in Japanese, it didn't hit as hard, I don't think. It's just some of the stuff that Kyoko and Sayaka says didn't sound quite as convincing, and Makoto didn't sound quite as convinced. So that's what I got from it anyways. Bryce, I think, played off the I want to kill myself vibe a little bit better. Which, I hope that doesn't say anything about Bryce. Bryce, you're a great actor. Good job. You do great I love you as Nagito. You're awesome. Okay, let's move on. Japanese fixes one of my issues with the dub in episode 11. Hina says, shouldn't we have found the exit first? Implying a mystery. Yeah, I remember this. This was implying that she thought they should have found the exit first. Why did Juzo find it? They should have found it. Oh no, what's the secret? Why did Juzo find it first? But in Japanese, she just says, we should have found it first. Simply being mad that they didn't. And that's all I have to say about that. Yeah, I remember thinking that was really weird in the dub, how the way Hina said it was as if they were confused as to why they didn't find it first. But in the Japanese, she was mad that they didn't find it first, which makes a lot more sense because it means there's no mystery. So that makes more sense. So yeah, point to the Japanese there, I guess, or point against the English because that was just them wording a script change improperly. It wasn't even really a script change. It was so slight, but it was slight enough that they kind of ruined the wording. Anyways, Tengen is even vaguer in Japanese than in English. So in Tengen's whole speech, that he gives through the video that ends up making me try go crazy. In English, at the end he's like, oh, the humanity and the despair, seeing all my children go crazy. And then he says, better yet, isn't it great to see it all come true? But then in Japanese, he just is like, oh, the despair, to see all the bad things. Oh no, oh no, oh no. And so I did it, or something. And then I did it. And he says it happily, but just the line, and then I did it, or so I did it. So I finally did it. And that's so vague. Like, are we even supposed to assume that he's despair from that? Because if he's hopeful and pretending to be despair, then the dub line is way better. Because it's very much comes off as someone who's despairful. Whereas in the Japanese version, maybe he's despairful, but the wording is so weird that I just think the dub hits home better, especially if he's pretending to be despairful. But even if he's not, it's just more oomph from a narrative standpoint. So, yeah, point to the dub there, I guess. Okay. I really like the dub line, you can wait for a miracle or you can make one. So yeah, there's this point at the beginning of the Hope Arc episode where Hajime is standing over Yukizomi's body and having a little inner monologue to himself. And in Japanese, what Izuru or / Hajime, Izurume, Hajizuru, what he says is, you can make a miracle if you really try, huh? I like the English wording of a lot better, which is, you can wait for a miracle or you can make one. I like that so much better than the Japanese, which is just like, so you can make miracles if you try, huh? So yeah, the dub is just better wording there. Anyways, I prefer the Japanese hope despair to the English bag of rocks, right, equivalent. But I prefer the English guess we'll see to the Japanese kind of equivalent. So this is talking about the Makoto's big final speech to Munakata, saying how he's going to be ultimate hope at this point, basically. Yeah, so in the Japanese, Makoto says how, the remnants have had to, the Danganronpa 2 cast have taken the burden of despair, so I'll have to take the burden of hope. It's the least I can do. Whereas in the English, he tries to be more silly about it. He's like, the remnants have their bag of rocks and I have mine. And I'm like, bag of rocks? Come off yourself, Makoto. Just be blunt in this case. Just say hope, despair, I think. It's better. But then there was another line where in Japanese, Munakata's like, do you know what you'll do? And then Makoto's like, yeah, kinda, sorta, I guess I do. Like saying he knows that he's going to become the principal of hope speak? I mean, good for him, I guess, in Japanese, that he's more sure of himself. I guess this plays into the more confident Japanese Makoto, I don't know. But in English, I like it more when he says, guess we'll see, like he doesn't know. You don't know necessarily what the future holds. And this plays into the next line. He starts talking about how you don't necessarily know what the future holds, but if you just stand and wait, nothing changes. You have to move forward. And that, I like guess we'll see better in English because of that. Because, you don't necessarily know where you're going. But if you don't go, if you just stay still, it plays into the line better is what I'm getting at. So I like guess we'll see in English better than I sort of already know what I'm going to do in Japanese when he's talking to Munakata. That's it. That's all the script changes I wrote down. Holy shit, guys. Are we done? So, yeah, okay. The thing about Kyoko, I might quickly cut the video and look up what I was talking about because I don't remember what I wrote this down for. I remember that there was a reason. I don't remember the reason. Hold a sec. I'm gonna go pause and watch the scene again in Japanese and English to remember what I was talking about. Okay, I'm back. Alright, so, thankfully it didn't take much for me to remember. All I had to do was start. I literally opened up both Funimation and Crunchyroll, started playing the first bit of the Crunchyroll one, and it hit me instantly what both were, and then I closed them both. So I didn't actually have to watch the scene again. So, the thing with the Kyoko scene and explaining the underwater facility. This is in episode 9, by the way, Future Arc. Kyoko is explaining to Mitarai the underwater facility trick, and how it's, it's not up above the surface, it's under the water. So there's a thing again, basically either you can put this as a point to and against Japanese, or a point to and against English, or a point to Japanese and a point to English. What it comes down to is, in the English version, and I thought this was weird at the time, actually, Kyoko said something like, I had my doubts, but when I saw the knife thing the knife indentation in the door that Izayo made being gone, that's when I was sure or something. She said she worded it like that in a way that made you believe, wait, she knew right away from then that it was a facility like that? No, that is the English's fault. In the Japanese, it's instead of saying I had my doubts, but when I saw that indentation, in the Japanese it's more like I had my doubts, such as when I saw the indentation. It wasn't a but, it was a such as. Seeing the indentation in the door, that was an example of her starting to have those doubts from the beginning. And she started to become more sure of it later on, as opposed to, oh no, she was sure right then and there, which is the impression the English version gave. That they were in an underwater facility, I mean. And then the other point, the point against the Japanese version is that, and this is something that they sort of just script changed out, because I don't know if they thought it was stupid like I did, but in Japanese, Kyoko says, Mitarai is like, wait, why would they, but how could they do that? How could they, hide the fact that the whole facility was changed? And then Kyoko says, in Japanese, she said something like, it's easier to hide it because it's a big thing. And I'm like, no! She said something like, it's because it's a whole big facility that you wouldn't expect to be easily hideable that it's easier to hide it. Maybe that's just bad subtitles. If what she was saying is it's easier to trick people when you do go through all that effort, then yes, that's true. They wouldn't expect it if you go through all that effort. But the way she says it, it's just like, it's much easier to fix somebody out with a bigger thing. But that's implying that the action of going through all the effort of setting up the whole big fake base is part of being easier. But no, that's way harder. That's way harder. And I know this is a minor thing. This is just they worded it better in English. I don't remember exactly how, or maybe this is just Japanese subtitles being bad. But the way she said it. So yeah, that's what that scene is about. That's the pro and the con, and that's it. That is all of the script changes. Holy shit, guys. Oh, I said that I was recording it on August 8th. It is now August 10th. I've had to take 2-day breaks, which I don't know if you noticed when those were, but I'm done. That's it. I said my final thoughts. I said my comparison between the dub and Japanese. I mean, yeah, overall I like the dub more. I'm glad I chose to watch the dub. If you like the Japanese more power to you. I disagree, good sir, madam, sir. Is there anything else to talk about? I don't think so. Wait, what is this? What's this written here? I didn't write this, did I? Mention the 2.5 OVA? The fuck is that? Oh, wait, there's more here. What is this? Okay, geez. Who wrote this? Did I write this? No, I didn't write this. Mention that you are aware of the existence of the 2.5 OVA. You haven't reacted to it yet. You think you might in the future if it gets a proper localization, but at the moment it's not properly localized. So A, you would have to watch the Japanese, which isn't terrible, but you've already pointed out that you much prefer the dub Nagito, and from your understanding 2.5 OVA heavily focuses on Nagito, so that would be a shame. But even if I was to watch the Japanese, it would have to be on some rando illegal site, and the quality of the stream would be worse, and I'd have to record the video off an illegal stream. It would just be a worse experience overall. And also, I'd rather at this point wait and hope that within the near-ish future there's an official localization, and then at that point, then I can pick up the 2.0 OVA and react to it, and we'll be all happy-dory. But until that point comes, I'd rather hold off. It's possible it will never come. In a few years, if there's still no official localization, someone remind me on one of my videos, like 4 or 5 years from now, if there's still no official localization, if Danganronpa 4 comes out and there's still no official localization, then maybe I'll suck it up and just react to it. But until then, I'd rather hold out for an official version, and that is my stance on the matter, so that you don't ask me about it in the comments. Weird. I don't know what that was about. I just found that written on my page. Not sure what this is all about. 2.5? I have no idea what that's talking about, guys. Somebody wrote on my paper. Anyways, that's my final thoughts on Danganronpa 3, the anime. I will see you guys in Danganronpa 3, the game. The current plan, it was originally, this was going to go up on Wednesday, and then that was going to be up on Friday. But now this is coming up on Friday, and instead I'm going to upload that on, let's go Sunday. I'm going to upload that on Sunday. I've had so little time to edit anything else this week. I've been doing so much with this Hope Arc reaction that I'm only going to have 1 or 2 videos to upload next week anyways. So I'm going to delay the Danganronpa 3 start to Sunday, I'd say. Anyways, that's it. We're done. Holy shit. How long is this video? At least 2 hours, I know that much. Any final send-off words? Why bother with the final send-off? It is what it is. I said my thoughts. I said my piece. I said my extra thoughts. Sayonara, Zetsubo.